The orbital palace of the High Council did not look like a prison. It looked like a heaven carved from white marble and spun gold, suspended in the velvet vacuum of space above the galactic core.
Dakota's down.
Floating banners of silk, woven with thread that shimmered in colors the human eye struggled to process, drifted in the artificial gravity currents of the Grand Tribunal Hall. It was a masterpiece of intimidation designed to make anyone standing on the floor feel small, temporary, and flawed. To Jalen Cade, it mostly just smelled like ozone and expensive lies. Jalen stood in the center of the obsidian floor, adjusting the cuffs of his dress uniform. He was a diplomat, a man whose entire career was built on the ability to smile while being insulted and to turn a death sentence into a trade agreement. He had talked his way out of airlocks in the Outer Rim and negotiated hostage releases with warlords who did not speak any known language. But today, the silence in the tribunal hall felt heavy, like the air pressure had been dialed up to crush his lungs. Above him, on a curved dais that looked down upon the accused like the ridge of a mountain range, sat the 9 members of the High Council. They were draped in robes of iridescent weave, their faces obscured by the glare of the halo lights positioned specifically to blind anyone looking up. But Jalen was not the one on trial. At least, that was what he told himself. To his left, encased in a cylinder of luminous restraint glass, stood the prisoner. Lyra Vex. The propaganda broadcasts had painted her as a monster. They called her the Butcher of the Nebulas, a pirate queen who flayed ships for their hyperdrives and left crews to freeze in the dark. Jalen had expected a brute. He had expected scars, cybernetic grafts, and the erratic movement of a chem addict. Instead, the woman behind the glass was terrifyingly still. She was tall, her skin a pale twilight violet that seemed to absorb the harsh lights of the chamber rather than reflect them. Her hair was a cascade of silver filaments that moved slightly on their own, reacting to invisible currents in the air. She wore a prisoner's jumpsuit, gray and shapeless, but she wore it with the posture of an empress bored by a tedious dinner party. Her eyes, solid pools of gold without pupils, scanned the room. She was not looking at the judges. She was not looking at Jalen. She was looking at the structural seams of the marble walls. She was looking at the drone cameras that buzzed around them like angry hornets, streaming this trial to 1 billion screens across the galaxy. She was memorizing weaknesses. A boom of sound resonated through the floor, vibrating in the soles of Jalen's boots. The High Counselor, a towering figure in the center of the dais, leaned forward. His voice was amplified, booming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Envoy Cade," the counselor said, his voice a smooth, synthetic baritone. "The United Earth Coalition petitioned us for aid. Your people are starving. Your atmosphere scrubbers are failing. You came to us begging for entry into the Federation trade routes." Jalen straightened his back. He knew the script. This was the part where he groveled, and they offered crumbs in exchange for mineral rights. "I did not come to beg." "Counselor," Jalen said, his voice steady, projected clearly for the recording drones. "I came to negotiate a partnership. Earth has resources you need. You have nothing we cannot take," the counselor interrupted. "But we are a benevolent governing body. We believe in mercy. We believe in integration." The air in the room shifted. The drones dipped lower, their lenses spiraling to focus on Jalen's face. "We have a proposal," the counselor continued, a gesture of supreme goodwill. "A union that will symbolize the new peace between the civilized galaxy and your developing world." Jalen felt a cold prickle of sweat between his shoulder blades. He had read every legal precedent in the Federation archives. There was no precedent for this tone of voice unless a trap was about to spring. What kind of union? Jalen asked. The counselor gestured a long, slender hand toward the glass cylinder. This creature, the counselor said, pointing a finger at Lyra Vex, is a menace to the stability of the sector. She is a pirate, a seditionist, and a thief. Under our laws, she is owed death. But the council wishes to demonstrate that even the wildest elements can be tamed by the structure of our society. Lyra Vex turned her head. For the first time, those golden eyes locked onto Jalen. There was no fear in them. There was only a sharp, devastating intelligence. Jalen Cade, the counselor announced, the volume rising to a crescendo. To seal the trade agreement, to save your people from famine, and to prove Earth's loyalty to our laws. You will take custody of this prisoner. You will integrate her into your household. You will marry her. Today. The silence that followed was absolute. Jalen blinked. He waited for the punchline. He waited for the translation software in his ear to correct itself. "Excuse me," Jalen said. "You will wed the prisoner Lyra Vex," the counselor repeated. "Publicly, immediately." "That is insane," Jalen snapped, his diplomatic veneer cracking. "I am an envoy, not a jailer, and I am certainly not a suitor for a convicted criminal. This is a mockery of international law." A beam of red light shot down from the ceiling, materializing into a holographic document that hovered inches from Jalen's nose. It was a contract, the text scrolling faster than a human could read, but the key terms pulsed in angry crimson. Refusal is rejected. The council's legal AI droned, its voice devoid of inflection. Rejection of the council's peace offer will result in the immediate cessation of all humanitarian aid to the Sol system. Sanction Level 5 will be enacted. All Earth vessels currently in Federation space will be impounded. Their crews will be remanded to labor colonies. Jalen stared at the floating text. It was a guillotine blade made of light. If he said no, millions back home would starve. If he said no, his crew, his friends waiting on his ship docked in the hangar bay, would be slaves by sunset. He looked up at the dais. This was not a negotiation. It was an execution with a wedding cake. "Why?" Jalen demanded. "Why her? Why me?" "Because," the counselor said, leaning back into the shadows, "it will be quite the show." From inside the glass cylinder, there was a sound, a soft melodic noise that cut through the tension like a razor. Lyra Vex was laughing. It was not a hysterical laugh. It sounded like broken starlight, chiming and sharp. She stepped closer to the glass, her breath fogging the luminous surface. She looked Jalen up and down, her gaze lingering on the terrified pulse jumping in his neck. She leaned in, her lips moving near the translation pickup embedded in the glass. The voice that came through Jalen's earpiece was husky, layered with a strange resonance, like two people speaking in unison. "Your face says hero," Lyra whispered. "Your heartbeat says idiot." Jalen turned to her, startled by the clarity of the insult. "Excuse me," he said. "You are trying to find a logic puzzle to solve," she said. "There is no puzzle. Little diplomat. They want to humiliate me. They want to compromise you. And they want the ratings to be high while they do it." The counselor slammed a fist onto the armrest of his throne. "Silence the prisoner." The audio inside the cylinder cut off, but Lyra did not look perturbed. She merely smiled, a faint predatory curving of her lips that made Jalen feel like he was the one behind the glass. The counselor cleared his throat, regaining his composure. "Let the record show the crimes of the betrothed," he announced. Lyra Vex, guilty of grand piracy, guilty of high sedition against the council, guilty of the impersonation of royalty and false claims to a bloodline erased 300 years ago. Jalen watched Lyra. When the list of crimes was read, she did not flinch. She did not shout her innocence. She looked bored. She tapped a finger against the glass, checking the vibration, testing the frequency of the energy shield. "Do you deny these charges?" the counselor demanded, toggling the audio back on. Lyra looked up at the high-vaulted ceiling. "I deny nothing," she said, her voice smooth. "I only have one request." The counselor paused, seemingly surprised by her compliance. "State it." "I would like to see the wedding vows in advance," Lyra said. "I am particular about my promises." A ripple of uneasy laughter went through the gathered court aides and drone operators. Even the counselor seemed taken aback by the absurdity of the request. Jalen felt a presence at his elbow. He turned to find a council aide standing there, a small, gray-skinned being with large, dark eyes, holding a data pad. "Sign here. Envoy," the aide murmured, thrusting the pad into Jalen's hands. Jalen looked at the pad. It was the marriage license. It was already filled out. His name was there. Lyra's name was there. The date was today. "I have not agreed to this," Jalen hissed. The aide leaned closer, pretending to point at a signature line. "The blockade ships are already moving toward Earth," the aide whispered, barely moving their lips. "You have no choice. Envoy. But you should know, she is not the danger here." Jalen froze, his pen hovering over the screen. He looked at the aide's large, watery eyes. "What?" Jalen breathed. "She is not the danger," the aide repeated, their voice a thread of sound. "The council is. Watch the shadows. Envoy." Before Jalen could ask a single follow-up question, the aide snatched the datapad back, tapped a command that registered Jalen's biometric proximity as a signature, and vanished into the ranks of security guards lining the wall. "The deed is done," the counselor proclaimed, his arms spread wide as if he had just bestowed a great blessing. "The union is ratified. The ceremony will commence in 10 hours. Take the groom to his preparation chambers. Take the bride to the holding suite." Guards in white armor swarmed Jalen. He was not asked to move, he was grabbed. He tried to pull away, his diplomatic immunity forgotten. "I need to speak to my crew," Jalen shouted as they dragged him backward. "I need to contact my government." "Communication is restricted for the duration of the joyful period," the legal AI chirped cheerfully, as they hauled him out of the great doors. Jalen looked back. Lyra Vex was still standing in her glass cage. She was watching him leave. She raised one hand and waved, a small, mocking gesture of fingers. Then the doors slammed shut, severing the sight line, leaving Jalen in the marble corridor with 4 armed guards and a sinking realization that his life was effectively over. Jalen's quarters in the guest wing of the palace were lavish. There were silk tapestries, a balcony overlooking the curve of the planet below, and a bowl of exotic fruit that probably cost more than his ship. It was a gilded cage. He stood by the wall, running a scanner from his wrist comp over the plaster. The device shrieked with red indicators. Bugged. The flower vase was a microphone. The mirror was a 2-way retinal scanner. The light fixture was transmitting thermal data. He tried his comms link again. Static. He tried to access his ship's navigation codes through the remote uplink. Locked. Access denied. His wrist comp flashed. Administrative override in effect. He sank onto the edge of the oversized bed, burying his face in his hands. He was a hostage. They had dressed it up in legal pomp and a wedding ceremony, but he was a leverage point. If he ran, Earth starved. If he stayed, he was shackled to a terrorist. He stood up and paced. He needed information. He needed to know who Lyra Vex really was. Pirates were common. Pirates did not get state weddings in the High Council tribunal. Pirates were executed in the dark. Why keep her alive? Why attach her to a human diplomat? The door chimed. Preparation for the first meeting. A mechanical voice announced. The door slid open. 2 guards stood there. Move, one said. They marched him down a series of corridors that became less ornamental and more fortified. The marble gave way to brushed steel. The floating banners were replaced by force field emitters. They stopped at a heavy blast door labeled Bridal Suite, Max Cease. The irony was not lost on Jalen. The door hissed open. Jalen stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind him instantly. The room was large, furnished with plush velvet chairs and a soft, glowing bed. But the air hummed with the containment field that split the room in half. On the other side of the shimmering energy barrier, Lyra Vex was inspecting a painting on the wall. She did not turn around when Jalen entered. This is a reproduction, she said, tapping the frame. The brushstrokes are too mathematically perfect. A machine painted this. Jalen walked up to the barrier. He could feel the static charge radiating from it, making the hair on his arm stand up. We need to talk, Jalen said. Lyra turned. Without the distortion of the tribunal glass, she was even more striking. Her eyes were unsettling, glowing with a faint internal light. She moved with a fluidity that suggested her bones were lighter or denser than a human's. He could not tell which. Husband, she drawled, the word dripping with sarcasm. You look pale. Are you getting cold feet? This isn't a joke, Jalen said, his voice hard. My planet is on the line. My crew is on the line. I don't know who you are or what game you're playing, but I need to know if you're going to kill me the moment that field drops. Lyra walked to the barrier. She stood inches from it, inches from him.
Also be careful, because there might be people.
If I wanted to kill you, she said softly, I would have done it with a thought before they even put the cuffs on me. She reached out and pressed her hand against the energy field.
Thank you so much.
Sparks flew, blue and angry, hissing against her palm.
I appreciate that.
She didn't flinch. She just watched the energy dance around her fingers.
I have the big jug for all of us.
They bugged your room, didn't they? She asked, not looking at him.
Unless you don't have room.
Yes, Jalen said. And they locked your ship. Yes. She nodded, as if satisfying a checklist. They have put us in a box, Jalen. A very expensive, very public box. They want us to panic. They want you to try to handle me. And they want me to lash out and break your neck on live television. That is the narrative. The savage alien and the civilized human. A tragedy for the ages. Why? Jalen asked. Why go to this trouble? Because the council is dying, Lyra said. Her voice dropped, losing the mockery. It is an old, rotting beast that eats fear to stay alive. They need a distraction. They need a war. And our wedding is the starting gun. Jalen stared at her. For a moment, the pirate queen vanished, and he saw something else. Someone tired. Someone who had been running for a very long time. So what do we do? Jalen asked. Lyra pulled her hand back from the field. Her palm was scorched, smoke rising from the skin, but the wound was already knitting itself back together, the purple flesh smoothing over before his eyes. We play the role, she said. You wear the suit. I wear the dress. We say the words. And then, she looked at him, her golden eyes narrowing. Then we decide if we are partners or enemies. Jalen stepped closer to the field. I do not rape, he said flatly. I do not force. I do not participate in coercion. This marriage is a sham, and I will not touch you unless you ask for it. That is my line. Lyra blinked. For the first time, her expression softened. It was a fleeting look, gone in a microsecond, but he saw it. Surprise, consent, she mused,
Wait,
a rare commodity in this palace. She leaned in, her face close enough that he could see the intricate, bioluminescent patterns in her irises. I will make you a promise. Jalen Cade, she whispered. If you do not try to control me, I will not destroy you. I will protect you. But if you try to leash me, if you try to act like the owner they claim you are, I will burn your life down to the ash. Do we have an accord? Jalen looked at the woman who could heal from energy burns in seconds. He looked at the intelligence sharpening her gaze. We have an accord, Jalen said. Good, Lyra said. Now go away. I have a wedding to prepare for. Jalen turned to leave, signaling the camera in the corner to open the door. As the heavy steel slid aside, he glanced back. Lyra had turned away from him. She was walking toward the opulent vanity table in the corner of her cell. She looked like a woman preparing to apply makeup. But Jalen watched as her hand moved with a speed that blurred the air. As the guard stepped in to escort Jalen out, Lyra brushed past the edge of the force field where the food slot was located. The guard, a hulking brute in white armor, did not even feel it. Jalen saw it, though. He saw Lyra's long fingers dip into the guard's belt. He saw the flash of a silver security token vanishing into her sleeve. The guard grunted at Jalen to move. Jalen looked at Lyra. She was sitting at the vanity, staring into the mirror. She caught his eye in the reflection and winked. Jalen walked out into the corridor, his heart hammering against his ribs. 10 hours. 10 hours until the broadcast. 10 hours until the galaxy watched him marry a nightmare. High above in the orbital station, the council chamber was being dressed with flowers that smelled like funerals. The drones were charging their batteries. The stage was set, and in her cell, Lyra Vex spun the stolen security token between her fingers, smiling a smile that promised absolute chaos. The preparation for the wedding felt less like a celebration of union and more like the grim ritual of armoring a corpse for open casket viewing. Jalen Cade stood in the center of a circular dressing chamber, arms held out at 45-degree angles, while 3 silent drones hovered around him, fusing plates of ceremonial armor to his body. The material was a blinding pearl-white alloy that weighed heavy on his shoulders, restrictive and stiff. It was not designed for movement. It was designed for posing. It was designed to make him look like a statue of a husband rather than a living man. The collar rose high, stiffening his neck, forcing his chin up. The chest plate was etched with the Federation's seal, a 9-pointed star gripping a galaxy in its talons. It felt less like a symbol of protection and more like a target. Hold still. Envoy, a drone chirped as it heat-sealed a greave to his shin. Trembling affects the aesthetic symmetry. I am not trembling. Jalen lied through clenched teeth. I am vibrating with patriotic joy. The drone did not register the sarcasm. It simply whirred and moved to his other leg.
I'm landing right here then.
Across the hall, in the bridal detention suite, the scene was starkly different but equally oppressive. Through the security monitor feed that had been projected onto Jalen's wall, ostensibly so he could admire his bride, but really so he could watch her containment, he saw Lyra Vex. She was not being dressed by drones. She was standing in the center of the room, surrounded by 4 armed guards who kept their rifles leveled at her chest while a nervous tailor adjusted the hem of her gown. The dress was a piece of impossible engineering. It was not made of fabric. It was woven from threads of reactive light, a technology stolen from the core worlds of the nebula. The gown shifted color with her breath and heartbeat. When she was calm, it was a deep, oceanic blue. When she moved, it flared into violet. It was beautiful, but it was also a restraint. Jalen could see the faint shimmer of a suppression field woven into the bodice. If she moved too fast, the dress would paralyze her. The tailor stepped back, sweating. "Is the fit acceptable, prisoner?" The tailor squeaked. Lyra looked down at the swirling light clinging to her body. She took a breath, and the dress pulsed a soft, dangerous indigo. "It fits like a coffin," Lyra said, "but at least it is shiny." The monitor cut to static as the door to Jalen's room hissed open. A protocol droid rolled in, its chassis gleaming with fresh polish. "Rehearsal of the vows," the droid announced. "The council requires a phonetic check to ensure no linguistic embarrassments during the broadcast. Please repeat after me." Jalen sighed, the weight of the armor pressing down on his diaphragm. "Fine. Let's get this over with." The droid projected a hologram of the text. "I, Jalen Cade, accept the stewardship of this entity." The droid recited, "I, Jalen Cade, accept the stewardship of this entity." Jalen repeated, the words tasting like ash, "and do accept all liabilities, debts, and snack obligations incurred by said entity." The droid continued. Jalen paused. He frowned at the droid. "Snack obligations?" Jalen asked. The droid whirred, its optical sensor spinning. "Correction. Syntax error in translation matrix. Retrying." The hologram flickered. The alien text reorganized itself. "And do accept all liabilities, debts, and blood debts incurred by said entity," the droid corrected, its voice dropping an octave to a colder, more metallic tone. "That is a significant difference," Jalen muttered. The droid ignored him. "Proceed to the final clause," the droid commanded. Jalen looked at the scrolling text. He had been so focused on the absurdity of the situation that he had not actually read the fine print of the ceremony until this moment. He squinted at the glowing blue letters floating in the air. By speaking these vows, the primary party, the husband, assumes total legal and physical custody of the secondary party, the wife. Any acts of sedition, violence, or destruction committed by the secondary party shall be legally attributed to the primary party as if he had committed them himself. Jalen froze. The blood drained from his face, leaving him cold beneath the white armor. He read it again when it was not just a marriage, when it was a transfer of liability. "Wait," Jalen said, his voice rising. "This means if she kills someone, I get executed." The droid did not answer. It simply deactivated the hologram. "Protocol check complete," the droid said. "Please proceed to the staging area." "No," Jalen said, stepping forward, the armor clanking. "I am not signing that. I am not saying that. This is a death warrant. You are strapping a bomb to my chest and handing the detonator to a woman who hates you." The door opened again, but it was not the droid leaving. It was the guards bringing Lyra in. They had moved her for the procession. She stood in the doorway, the reactive light of her dress glowing a soft, eerie teal. Her hands were bound in front of her with translucent energy cuffs. She looked at Jalen. She looked at the panicked expression on his face. Then she looked at the droid. He figured it out, didn't he? Lyra asked the droid. The droid beeped a confirmation. Jalen turned to Lyra. He pointed a shaking finger at the empty air where the contract had been. "Did you know about this?" Jalen demanded. Lyra stepped into the room, the guards trailing her nervously. She moved with a strange grace, despite the heavy dress and the cuffs. She stopped a foot away from him. "Of course I knew," Lyra said. "It is standard Federation politics. They do not want to execute me. Jalen, that would make me a martyr. They want me to act out. They want me to break a rule or hurt a guard or steal a ship. And when I do, they want to execute you for it." She tilted her head, her golden eyes analyzing his face. "They are not binding me to you," she said,
I'm gonna take that.
her voice
jet.
dropping to a whisper that the guards could not hear. They are binding you to my shadow. You are the scapegoat. You are the pressure valve. Jalen stared at her. The cruelty of the plan was breathtaking. The council would look benevolent for granting the marriage, and then justified when they executed the human envoy for his wife's inevitable crimes. It would start a war, clean and simple. I won't do it, Jalen said. Lyra laughed, a short, sharp sound. You have to, she said. Look at the monitor. She nodded toward the wall screen. The image had changed. It now showed a live feed of Jalen's ship, the UNS Horizon, docked in the lower hangar. But around the ship, heavy weapon turrets were rotating, locking onto the hull. They are targeting your engine core, Lyra said. If you refuse at the altar, they fire, your crew burns, your mission fails, Earth starves. Jalen felt the room spin. He gripped the back of a chair to steady himself. So I am dead either way, Jalen whispered. Lyra stepped closer. The energy cuffs hummed. Not necessarily, she said. You just have to make sure I don't get in trouble. She grinned, but it did not reach her eyes. There was something hard and desperate behind the gold. Time to walk. Husband, she said. The audience is waiting. The council hall was a masterpiece of intimidation. It was a circular amphitheater large enough to hold 10,000 spectators. But today it was empty of people. Instead, the seats were filled with silence, while the walls were lined with millions of tiny cameras, transmitting the event to every system in the Federation. The ceiling was a holographic projection of the galaxy, swirling and shifting in real time. Beneath it, the 9 counselors sat on their elevated thrones, looking down like gods judging insects. Music swelled, a synthetic orchestral score that sounded triumphant and menacing all at once. Jalen walked down the long aisle. The armor chafe was agonizing. Every step was a reminder of the cage he was in. Beside him, Lyra walked with her head high, the light dress pulsing a steady, rhythmic blue. She did not look like a prisoner. She looked like a weapon that had been sheathed in silk. They reached the center of the amphitheater. The floor was polished obsidian, reflecting the galaxy above so that it felt like they were standing in deep space. The High Counselor leaned forward. His face was magnified on the screens floating above them. Envoy Jalen Cade. The counselor boomed, Prisoner Lyra Vex, you stand before the judgment of the stars to be bound in service and penance. Jalen looked up at the 9 faces. They looked bored. They looked eager. They looked like men and women who had already written the obituary for this marriage. Jalen's internal conflict reached a fever pitch. His body was screaming at him to run, to fight, to tear the armor off and scream the truth into the cameras.
Nice.
But the image of his ship, the turrets locking on, held him frozen. Do you, Jalen Cade, accept this burden? The counselor asked.
It is, but fuck it.
Jalen opened his mouth. The script was burned into his mind. I accept. That was all he had to say.
Bro, where are you taking that?
But he couldn't do it.
There's a buzzball. Come on.
Not like this.
You can take that.
I accept, Jalen said, his voice amplified by the room's acoustics. But only on the condition that the prisoner is treated with the dignity of a spouse, not an inmate. The counselor frowned. This was not in the script. The terms are set. Envoy, the counselor warned. Then unbind her hands, Jalen said, his voice gaining strength. If she is my wife, she does not wear cuffs. If she is my responsibility, then I trust her. It was a bluff. He did not trust her at all, but he needed to disrupt their narrative. He needed to show he was not just a puppet.
Oh my god.
The counselor hesitated.
Fuck this.
He glanced at the other judges. A murmur went through the room. Lyra turned to Jalen. Her eyes were wide. She had not expected this. The counselor waved a hand dismissively. Release the restraints. Let him hold the hand of his demise. A guard stepped forward and tapped a code into Lyra's cuffs. They deactivated and fell to the floor with a clatter.
This way.
Lyra
Start
rubbed
getting
her
up here.
wrists.
Yeah, we're
The
back
skin
to
was
that.
red where the energy had burned her. Now,
Because
the counselor
people
said,
coming in.
impatience creeping into his tone. The vows. Lyra stepped forward. She did not look at the counselor. She looked at Jalen. Wait,
Actually, we should
Lyra
move
said.
right here.
Her voice was not
Okay, yellow
loud,
already.
but it cut through the room like a bell.
There's people here.
The counselor sighed. What now, prisoner? I have conditions, Lyra said.
Fucking
You are in no position to negotiate. The counselor sneered.
towards yellow.
I am the bride, Lyra said, a shark-like smile returning to her face. And you want a show. You want the galaxy to see the tame monster. Well, the monster does not speak unless her new family is
There's a dead
safe.
body right here.
She pointed up at the cameras. Release the horizon, she commanded. Restore the food shipments to Earth. Confirm the transfer of the grain freighters on the public ledger.
Give me
Do
my
it now, or I will stand here in silence until your broadcast time runs out. The audacity of it
he's
stunned
not
the
selling
room.
stuff.
Jalen stared at her. She was bargaining for his people. She was using her one moment of leverage not to save herself, but to save his mission. The counselor's eyes narrowed. He looked at the live metrics of the broadcast. Viewership was spiking. The drama was working. Very well, the counselor said smoothly. It is a wedding gift. The shipments are authorized. The blockade is lifted. He tapped a command on his armrest.
Towards circle. It's gonna
Above
move
them,
pretty.
a green
We're
light
gonna move-
flashed
we
on
can
the
take
large
this.
display board,
No?
confirming
Or
the
can you
trade
go
route
across,
authorization.
maybe? Or
It happened too fast.
right here.
Jalen felt a knot form in his stomach. Governments did not release famine relief that quickly. They did not lift blockades in second. It was a
Oh,
lie.
yeah, okay, so then
They
you guys
agreed
wanna
because
go
they
that
knew
way
it didn't
then?
matter. They knew Jalen and Lyra would not survive the day to verify it. Lyra saw it too.
No,
Her smile tightened at the corners.
Yeah, there's
She knew it was a trap. But the deal was made. Proceed, Lyra said.
Do it. Fuck it.
The High Counselor
fuck it.
raised his hands.
Yeah.
Join hands and speak the words. Jalen reached out. Lyra reached
Oh
out.
fuck.
Their hands
Why is there
met.
so many people?
The contact
One, two,
was electric.
How many is that?
It was not a metaphor. A literal
count.
static shock snapped between their palms, loud enough to be heard.
They don't even see us, dude. That's
Jalen
crazy.
flinched, but he
Okay,
did not pull
we're
away. Her hand was cool, dry, and strong.
They
He
have-
could feel
they're-
the calluses on her fingers, fighter's hands.
No, I don't have cover.
He looked into her eyes. Up close,
I'm healing
the
up.
golden irises were swirling with storms. He saw fear there, buried deep
all I
under
have,
layers of
but-
defiance. I bind my life to yours, Jalen said, reciting the words. I bind my fate to yours, Lyra replied. Whatever you break, I mend, Jalen said. Whatever you build,
Yeah.
I guard, Lyra said. The script ended there,
That's crazy.
but Lyra did not let go of his hand. She squeezed it, hard, digging her nails into his palm.
Dakota.
She leaned in,
It's
bringing
fucking
her
a
face
whole-
inches
it's a
from
whole
his.
pack of
The
fucking-
camera zoomed in,
What does it say
hungry
called?
for the intimacy.
From-
Whatever they
from
forced,
Futurama.
Lyra whispered, so soft that only he could hear. We choose what
Yeah.
is real. Jalen squeezed back. It was an
Yeah, you guys have
acknowledgement,
revive.
a tiny rebellion.
You have to have one then.
The High Counselor stood
I
up.
think it's-
The union is
I
sealed.
don't know.
Let the
No, I don't
couple
know.
be
Let's do it on
escorted to
PC.
their...
I don't know.
He stopped. The air in the chamber changed. It was not a sound at first. It was a feeling. A deep, subsonic thrumming rose through the soles of Jalen's boots.
Thank you so much
It
for stopping
vibrated
by,
in his
so
teeth. It felt like the station itself was taking a deep breath.
Hopefully you
The
can
lights
catch
in the
one of my
ceiling
fucking,
flickered.
streams
The
tomorrow
holographic
or
galaxy
Sunday.
above them shuddered and realigned. The stars
Probably
shifted,
later in the night.
swirling rapidly,
Evening.
focusing on a single point directly above the dais. What is happening? Jalen asked.
I put one more.
Lyra was not looking at the ceiling. She was looking at the floor. Oh
Dude,
no,
look at them, they're
she
fucking full
whispered.
squad.
Not here. Not now.
Yeah, and you thought
A massive grinding sound echoed through the hall. Behind the 9 counselors, the wall, which appeared to be solid marble, began to split. An ancient mechanism, hidden for centuries, was grinding open.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend money
Dust
on her
fell
right
from
now.
the ceiling. Jalen watched in horror as the high thrones of the counselors began to
No
lower.
one's complaining.
The anti-gravity sleds that held the judges above the floor were
That's
malfunctioning,
just fucking crazy.
or rather, they were being overridden. The counselors were shouting, slamming their control panels. "Override!" the high counselor screamed. "Halt descent!"
Dad.
But the thrones continued to sink until they hit the floor level. The 9 most powerful beings in the galaxy were suddenly standing on the same ground as the prisoner. And then, it got worse. The vibration in the floor intensified. Jalen felt a strange pressure in his knees, a magnetic pull. But it was not affecting him. It was affecting the counselors. As one, the 9 judges stiffened. Their eyes went wide with panic. Their bodies jerked, as if seized by invisible strings. It happened in slow motion. The High Counselor, a man who had burned worlds and starved planets, dropped to his knees. The other 8 followed. They did not kneel with grace. They kneeled with rigid, terrified, jerky movements, their joints popping, their faces masks of shock. They bowed until their foreheads touched the obsidian floor. They were prostrating themselves before Lyra. The silence in the hall was deafening. The hum of the ancient machine was the only sound. Jalen looked at Lyra. He expected her to be gloating. He expected a smile of triumph. But she looked devastated. Her shoulders slumped. The reactive light in her dress dimmed to a mournful gray. She looked at the 9 powerful men bowing to her against their will. And she looked sad. "I told them," she whispered.
Purple?
"I told them not to bring me here." The giant door behind the dais fully opened, revealing a dark, cavernous shaft pulsing with blue light. A robotic voice, archaic and thunderous, spoke from the darkness.
I may or may not make it.
Sovereign recognized. The Arclight bloodline is verified. Command access granted. The spell broke. The High Counselor, face pressed to the floor, screamed a single order. "Kill her. Kill her before the protocol completes." Chaos erupted. The red alarm klaxons blared, drowning out the orchestral music. The doors to the chamber blew open, and squads of security drones poured in. The counselors scrambled to their feet, their dignity shattered, shouting for the guards to open fire. Jalen stood frozen, his mind unable to process the shift from wedding to coup. Lyra moved. She did not run away from him. She lunged at him. She grabbed the breastplate of his armor and yanked him forward. "Run, husband!" she yelled over the sirens. Jalen stumbled. "Where?" "There are guards everywhere. Not for me," Lyra shouted, pulling him toward the edge of the amphitheater where a service hatch was concealed in the wall. "Run for truth." She reached into the bodice of her dress and pulled out the silver security token she had stolen from the guard in Part 1. She slammed it against the hidden panel. The hatch hissed open, hissed. Lasers scorched the air where they had been standing a second ago.
Oh, right here on the hill, yep.
Jalen threw himself through the hatch, the armor clanking loudly.
He's mine!
Lyra followed,
Come here, bitch.
diving through the opening with a fluidity that shamed his
No,
clumsiness.
just take him inside. You can finish
She
him.
hit the control panel on the other side, and the hatch slammed shut,
He's in
sealing
here.
them in a narrow, dimly lit maintenance
Right here.
artery.
I'll shut the door for you.
They were running through the veins of the palace.
There you go.
Pipes hissed steam around them.
Be
The
left.
floor was grated steel. Lyra didn't stop. She gathered the skirts of her light dress, ripped the heavy hem off with a savage tear, and sprinted down the corridor. "Keep up," she called back. Jalen panted, the armor weighing a ton. "You planned this," he gasped. "The token. You let them capture you." Lyra glanced back, her eyes glowing in the dark tunnel. "I let them capture me so I could get close to the archives," she admitted. "I didn't know they would make me a bride." That was an
Oh,
improvisation.
right here in the
They
street.
turned a corner and skidded to a halt. It was a dead end. A massive circular airlock blocked the path. It was sealed with heavy bolts. Behind them, the sound of boots on the grate grew louder. The guards were coming. Lyra rushed to the keypad. She jammed the stolen token into the slot.
Yep.
Access denied. The computer chirped. Security lockdown in effect. She cursed in a language that sounded like glass breaking. She hammered the console with her fist. Jalen turned to face the corridor. He saw the lights of the tactical squads rounding the bend. Red laser sights danced on his white armor.
I don't know who threw the other one.
"It's over," Jalen said, raising his hands. "We're cornered." Lyra spun around. She put her back to the airlock. She looked at the approaching guards, 20 of them, weapons raised, fingers tightening on triggers. Target acquired. The lead guard shouted, "Fire on my mark!" Lyra closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. The dress flared a blinding, pure white. She stepped in front of Jalen. She opened her eyes and looked directly at the lead guard. She did not shout. She spoke a single word, resonating with that strange, double-layered voice she had used in the tribunal. OSRA. It was not a magic spell. It was a root command. It was a word from the operating language of the station's original builders. A word that meant cease. The effect was instantaneous. The rifles in the guards' hands whined and powered down. The lights on their helmets died. The drones hovering above them dropped out of the air and clattered onto the floor. Inert metal. The guards stared at their useless weapons in confusion. Lyra grabbed Jalen's arm. The door behind them clicked. The ancient word had not just stopped the guns, it had overridden the lock. The airlock hissed open. "Move," Lyra said, her voice trembling with the effort of the command. "Before they remember they have fists." She shoved Jalen into the darkness of the airlock, and the heavy door slammed shut between them and the confused army, leaving them in the silence of the escape route. The airlock door sealed with a heavy, pressurized thud, cutting off the sound of shouting guards and powering down weaponry.
Oh, shit.
Jalen and Lyra stood in the cramped darkness of a maintenance service tunnel, the only light coming from the bioluminescent pulsing of Lyra's dress, which had settled into a wary, low-burn amber. Jalen leaned against the cold metal wall, his chest heaving beneath the ceremonial white armor. He pulled the helmet off and dropped it, the clang echoing too loudly in the silence. He ran a hand through his sweat-dampened hair and looked at the woman standing opposite him. She did not look like a prisoner anymore. In the dim light, with the memory of the High Council, the 9 most powerful beings in the galaxy prostrating themselves before her, she looked like something dangerous and ancient. "Explain," Jalen said. His voice was hoarse. Lyra was checking the charge on the stolen security token. She didn't look up. "We need to keep moving. Husband, the override on that door will not hold forever, and stop," Jalen said. He reached out, grabbing her wrist. It was the first time he had touched her without a ceremony forcing him to. Her skin was cool, but the muscle beneath it was tense, ready to snap. She froze, looking down at his hand, then up at his face. "They bowed to you," Jalen said. "The High Council does not bow to anyone. They don't even bow to their own gods. But they looked at you and they hit the floor like puppets. Who are you really?" "Lyra?" Lyra pulled her wrist free, not aggressively but firmly. She leaned back against the wall of the tunnel, the amber light of her dress casting long, strange shadows across her face. "I am exactly who they said I am," she said quietly. "A pirate, a criminal, a headache." "Don't lie to me," Jalen snapped. "I am a diplomat. I know the difference between a criminal and a sovereign. That machine in the wall spoke to you. It called you Arclight." Lyra flinched. The name seemed to hit her physically. She looked away. staring down the dark throat of the tunnel. "The Arc-Light Dominion," she said, the words tasting bitter in her mouth. "It is a ghost story. Jalen, a dynasty that ruled this sector for 1,000 years before the council rose up. They were not politicians. They were engineers. They built the orbital palace. They built the jump gates. They built the infrastructure that the council uses today. And," Jalen pressed, "and the council erased them," Lyra said. "3 centuries ago. They slaughtered the family, burned the records, and rewrote history to say that they were the founders. But they could not rewrite the architecture." She tapped the wall of the tunnel. "The palace is semi-sentient. It recognizes genetic markers. The council thought they had scrubbed every trace of the Arclight bloodline from the galaxy. But they missed one branch. A bastard line that fled to the nebulas and became nobodies. Pirates. Scavengers. Me." Jalen stared at her. The implication was staggering. "So you are the heir," he whispered. "I am a genetic anomaly," Lyra corrected sharply. "That bow was not respect. Jalen, it was a failsafe. The palace has a hard-coded protocol. If a direct descendant enters the chamber, the usurpers are forced to kneel. It is a humiliation subroutine built by my ancestors to ensure that if they were ever overthrown, the thieves could never sit comfortably on the throne." She laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "The council knows it. That is why they keep me in glass cages. That is why they wanted to marry me off to a human and bury me in bureaucracy. As long as I am alive, their authority is technically illegitimate. But if they kill me publicly, the palace systems might trigger a scorched earth protocol. They are stuck with me." Jalen felt the pieces clicking together. The rush to marry her off, the theatrics. They wanted to neutralize her bloodline by binding it to a species they considered inferior, effectively diluting the threat. "Did you know?" Jalen asked. "When they picked me, did you know I was just another pawn?" Lyra met his gaze. Her golden eyes were unguarded for the first time. "I did not know who they would pick," she admitted softly. "I expected a warlord, or a syndicate boss, someone they could bribe." She stepped closer, the amber light shifting to a soft, apologetic blue. "When I saw you, Jalen, when I saw you trying to negotiate with a firing squad with nothing but words, I hoped they had made a mistake. I hoped they had given me someone with a conscience." Jalen looked at her. He wanted to be angry. He wanted to scream at her for dragging him into a war he didn't sign up for, but he saw the exhaustion in her posture. She was not a queen plotting a conquest. She was a survivor holding a grenade, trying not to let it go off. "You hoped for a conscience," Jalen said, a wry smile tugging at his mouth. "And you got a bureaucrat in a fancy suit." Lyra smirked, the spark returning to her eyes. "A bureaucrat who knows how to run," she said. "Come on. If we stay here, we die." They moved through the maintenance arteries, climbing ladders that smelled of grease and old coolant. Lyra led the way, navigating the maze with an instinct that seemed almost supernatural, though Jalen suspected she was just reading the energy flow of the station through the soles of her boots. They emerged in a secondary hangar bay, far below the gilded docks where the diplomatic ships were berthed. This was the utilitarian underbelly of the palace, where garbage scows and fast courier vessels docked. "There," Lyra pointed. "That one." She was pointing at a sleek, needle-shaped ship painted a matte black. It was a courier runner, built for speed and nothing else. "It's locked," Jalen observed. Lyra didn't answer. She walked up to the hull, placed her palm against the locking mechanism, and closed her eyes. Her dress flared white. The lock clicked. "Genetics?" Jalen asked. Brute force hacking, Lyra replied. I used to steal these for a living. The ramp hissed down. They ran inside, the airlock cycling shut behind them just as the hangar doors blasted open and security drones poured in. Jalen strapped himself into the co-pilot seat. It was tight, designed for a small alien frame, not a broad-shouldered human in armor. Can you fly this? Jalen asked, looking at the dashboard, which was a terrifying array of holographic spheres and unlabeled sliders. I can fly a table if you put an engine on it, Lyra muttered. She tapped a sequence on the console. A voice filled the cockpit. It was cheerful, overly enthusiastic, and loud. Welcome aboard the Star Skipper Model 7, the ship's AI announced, scanning new occupants. Biometrics confirmed, male, human, female, Arclight variant, designation, newlyweds. Jalen froze. What? Congratulations on your nuptials, the AI chirped. I have detected the marriage license registered in the central data stream. Initiating honeymoon protocol. Mood lighting activated. The harsh white lights of the cockpit dimmed to a sultry, throbbing purple. Smooth jazz began to play from the overhead speakers. Turn it off, Jalen shouted. I can't, Lyra yelled back, her hands flying over the controls. It's hard-coded into the civilian profile. Hold on. She slammed the throttle forward. The ship lurched. They shot out of the hangar bay like a bullet leaving a gun barrel. The G-force hit Jalen like a physical blow. He was pressed back into the seat, his vision graying out. Behind them, the station's defense turrets opened fire. Green bolts of plasma whipped past the viewport, sizzling against the void. Shields, Jalen gasped. This is a courier ship, Lyra shouted, banking hard to the left to avoid a volley of fire. We don't have shields. We have speed and good vibes. Would you like to order the champagne package? The AI asked politely.
It should be bigger, no?
Not now, Lyra screamed at the dashboard. 3 council interceptors peeled off from the station's patrol wing. These were military-grade fighters, jagged and ugly, built to kill. They formed a triangle formation, locking their targeting computers onto the courier ship. They are faster than us, Jalen said, watching the proximity sensor turn red. On a straight line? Yes, Lyra said, her teeth gritted. So we don't fly in a straight line. She pulled the stick hard to the right, aiming the ship directly at the planetary debris ring, a swirling, chaotic ocean of broken satellites, old ship hulls, and ice rocks that orbited the planet below. You're going into the trash belt, Jalen asked, his stomach dropping. That's suicide. It's cover, Lyra corrected. They hit the edge of the debris field at Mach 10. Jalen squeezed his eyes shut. He expected the crunch of impact. He expected death. Instead, he felt the ship dance. Lyra flew with a terrifying precision. She rolled the ship through the hollowed-out hull of a derelict freighter, spun around a spinning chunk of ice the size of a city block, and dove under a net of magnetic mines. Jalen opened one eye. The view outside was a blur of spinning metal and rock. Lyra was not looking at the sensors. She was looking out the window, her hands moving with a fluid, rhythmic grace. She was humming.
That's how I know.
Are you humming? Jalen asked, his voice an octave higher than usual. It helps the rhythm, Lyra said. An interceptor tried to follow them through a gap between 2 colliding satellites. The pilot wasn't good enough. There was a bright flash of orange explosion behind them, then silence. One guest has departed the party, the AI noted sadly. Jalen laughed. He couldn't help it. The sheer absurdity of it, the jazz music, the purple lights, the near-death maneuvering broke something in his brain. He laughed until he was wheezing. You are insane, Jalen gasped. Lyra glanced at him, a wild grin on her face. I am effective.
Go.
She pulled a final maneuver, using the gravity well of a large asteroid to slingshot them out of the ring and into the deep shadow of the system's edge. The remaining two interceptors pulled back, unable to navigate the chaos. They were clear. Lyra cut the engines to a silent drift. The jazz music continued to play softly. Jalen unbuckled his straps and leaned forward, putting his head between his knees. "I am going to be sick," he announced. "Please aim away from the console," Lyra said, patting his shoulder. "Now it's a rental."
What do you mean? I was above
They
you
drifted
and
for
you
3
ran.
hours until they reached the coordinates Lyra had punched in. The destination was not a planet. It was the Cathedral of Broken Saints. It was an asteroid, hollowed out and carved into a Gothic nightmare of spires and buttresses floating in the dark. But instead of stained glass, the windows glowed with neon, pink, acid green, electric blue. It was a black market built into the corpse of a church.
Fuck, is that Bart?
"We can't land here," Jalen said, looking at the display. "This is a pirate haven. They will strip the ship for parts and sell us for ransom. They won't touch us," Lyra said. "I have credit here." She reached under the console and pulled out a small kit. She opened it to reveal a skin-phase veil, a small holographic emitter that adhered to the neck. "Turn around," she told Jalen. She pressed the device to his neck. He felt a cold tingle.
Yeah.
"Look in the mirror." Jalen looked at his reflection in the dark glass of the viewport. His face was different. His jaw was wider. His eyes were a different color, and he had a jagged scar running down his cheek. "It scrambles facial recognition," Lyra explained. "Now me?" She applied one to herself. The violet hue of her skin faded to a dull, common gray. Her glowing hair turned a flat black.
No.
The bioluminescent dress dimmed until it looked like dirty rags. She looked small. She looked common. She looked like someone who had spent a lifetime learning how not to be seen. "You've done this a lot," Jalen said quietly. "You don't survive the council by being shiny," Lyra said, checking a blaster pistol she had pulled from a hidden compartment. "You survive by being dirt. People walk right over dirt." She handed him a heavy cloak to cover his white armor. "Keep your head down. Let me do the talking. And if anyone asks, we are selling teeth." "Selling teeth?" Jalen asked.
Is on a line.
"It stops people from asking follow-up questions," Lyra said seriously. They docked in a rusty bay that smelled of sulfur and fried meat. The market inside the asteroid was a sensory assault.
Or Alyssa.
Stalls were piled high with scavenged tech, unauthorized gene mods, and canisters of memory fluid. Merchants shouted in a dozen languages. A four-armed vendor was haggling over a crate of blaster rifles. A drone drifted by, advertising fresh identities for the right price. Jalen kept his cloak pulled tight. He watched Lyra navigate the crowd. She moved differently here. She walked with a slouch, her shoulders hunched, blending into the flow of bodies. She was not the princess in the glass cage. She was a street rat. It made Jalen realize how little he knew about her. The council had called her a royal pretender, but she walked like someone who had fought for every meal she had ever eaten. They found a hotel, a row of pressurized shipping containers stacked on top of each other. Lyra paid the proprietor, a gelatinous blob in a tank, with a handful of credit chips she had liberated from the ship's emergency fund. "Room 4, the blob burped. "No loud noises. The walls are thin." The room was the size of a closet. It had a single mattress on the floor and a decontamination unit that leaked. Lyra locked the door and slumped against it. The adrenaline of the escape finally crashed. She slid down the metal door until she was sitting on the floor, her head in her hands. The skin phase veil flickered and died. Her natural violet skin returned, glowing softly in the dim room. Jalen sat on the edge of the mattress. He felt the ache in his bones, He began to
That's why I
unlatch the
only
white
have one
armor,
skin right now,
pieces of the
because
ceremonial
I
plating
cannot
clattering
use
to the
it.
floor.
I cannot do that.
He looked at
right now.
Lyra. There was a cut on her arm, likely from the scramble into the service tunnel. It was
Who the
bleeding
fuck
purple
changed my
blood.
music?
"You're hurt," Jalen said.
Who the fuck changed
"It's
my
nothing,"
music right now?
Lyra mumbled. Jalen reached into the med kit they had taken from the ship. He moved to sit on the floor beside her. "Let me see." Lyra flinched as he reached out, but she didn't pull away. Jalen cleaned the wound with a sonic swab. His movements were gentle, precise. The diplomat's hands, used to signing treaties, were surprisingly steady. "Why did you save me?" Jalen asked. His eyes focused on the bandage he was applying. "Back in the chamber, you could have run alone. You would have been faster without me." Lyra watched his face.
Are you guys
"You stood up for me,"
ready up?
she said.
Dakota.
"When they tried to shackle me, you demanded they treat me like a person. No one has done that in a very long time."
Oh, you have
Jalen finished the bandage. He looked up. Their faces were inches apart. The air in the tiny room felt suddenly thin, charged with a tension that had nothing to do with danger. "I meant what I said," Jalen whispered. "I don't want to own you." "Lyra." Lyra's breath hitched. She reached out, her hand hovering near his face. She traced the line of his jaw, her fingers cool and trembling slightly. "The council writes stories," she said softly. "They wrote a story where you are the master and I am the monster. They wrote a story where we destroy each other." She leaned in closer. Her golden eyes searched his. "I am tired of their stories, Jalen. Whatever they forced." Jalen quoted her words back to her. "We choose what is real." Lyra nodded. "If we touch," she whispered, her voice fierce, "it is because we decided, not because of a contract, not because of a camera, because we wanted to." "Do you want to?" Jalen asked. "Yes." She breathed. She closed the gap. The kiss was not like the handshake at the wedding. It was not electric or performative. It was desperate. It tasted of adrenaline and fear and a sudden, overwhelming relief. Lyra kissed him like she was trying to prove he was solid, and Jalen kissed her back with a hunger that surprised him. His hands found her waist, pulling her closer.
Fuck your sweater.
Her hands tangled in his hair. For a moment, the dirty room and the bounty on their heads didn't matter. There was just the heat of her skin and the frantic beat of their hearts. They pulled back, breathless, foreheads resting against each other. "Okay," Jalen said, his voice shaky. "Okay, that was real." Lyra laughed, a low, throaty sound. "Yes,
Yellow.
that was real." She stood up, pulling him with her. She looked at the small computer terminal on the wall. "Now, husband," she said, the sharpness returning to her tone. "Let's see why they wanted us dead." They connected the ship's portable data core to the room's terminal. Jalen used his diplomatic override codes, which ironically still worked on the black market
Definitely people
network,
here.
to decrypt the files
holy
Lyra had
shit.
stolen from the palace archives. The
Okay.
screen filled with data
Going to this
streams,
house right here.
contracts, bank transfers, communication
Solidly
logs.
green,
Jalen
blue,
scanned the text,
whatever the fuck this
his
is.
diplomat's eye catching the patterns instantly. "My God," he muttered. "What is it?" Lyra asked, looking over his
Oh, you
shoulder.
can get that box, actually.
"It's not just a war," Jalen said, pointing at a logo that kept appearing, a stylized sun with a gear inside it,
I'm with
the
you.
Heliox Combine. "The arms dealers?" Lyra asked. "They are more than that. Look at these transfers. The Council has been funneling billions of credits to Heliox for years. And look at the return investments." Jalen tapped the screen. "The Council isn't just buying weapons. They are shareholders." He turned to Lyra, his face pale.
Yeah,
"They are
come this
selling the
way.
wars
Look
they
at
start. They manufacture a crisis, like a rogue alien princess marrying a human envoy. And then they bet against the peace.
it. Look. Look, I defended you
If
right
I had
now.
been
You
executed
know
for
he
your
was coming to me.
crimes, Earth would have declared war. The Federation would have mobilized, and the Council members would have made trillions selling munitions to both sides.
What in the fuck?
Lyra stared at the
Did he
screen,
die?
her fists clenched. They killed my
want to
family
kill
for
him.
profit, she whispered. They erased a dynasty so they could turn
Oh,
the
he's
galaxy
really
into a
teammate,
strip
huh?
mall for weapons. It gets worse, Jalen said. Look at this file. Project Scapegoat. He opened it. It was a dossier. It contained detailed plans for Lyra's assassination. Target, Lyra Vex. Method, poisoning via contact agent applied to the wedding ring. Time frame, 24 hours post-ceremony.
My aim is
Blame to be
bad.
assigned to spouse,
Still killed them,
Jalen
but-
Cade. Lyra looked down at her hand. On her finger sat the heavy platinum band the council had forced onto her during the ceremony.
What in the fuck?
She yanked it off as if it were burning her. She threw it across the room. It hit the metal wall with a ping. They were going to kill me tonight, she said, her voice trembling with rage. And you would have taken the fall. The room was silent. The magnitude of the betrayal hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, the portable comms unit on the table lit up. The cheerful voice of the ship's AI filled the room. Excuse me, lovebirds. I hate to interrupt the marital bliss, but I have detected a data anomaly. Not now, Jalen said, rubbing his temples. But it is very interesting, the AI insisted. The ring, the platinum band the female unit just discarded. It is emitting a signal. Lyra walked over to the ring. She didn't touch it. She looked at it closely. A signal? She asked. It is not a poison canister, the AI chirped. Well, it might be that too. But primarily, it is a micro-storage device. Someone embedded a data key inside the metal alloy. Lyra looked at Jalen. The aide, Jalen said, remembering the mysterious figure in the tribunal. The one who told me you weren't the danger. He must have swapped the rings.
Okay.
I have decoded the binary etching. The AI continued. It is a set of navigational coordinates. Deep space. Sector 0. Sector 0?
Oh, there's
Lyra
people
frowned.
right here.
There is nothing there.
Oh shit.
It is a
he's
dead
Russian.
zone. Correction, the AI said smugly. There is nothing on the charts,
He's down.
but these coordinates point to a specific gravitational anomaly. A cloaked station. The AI projected a small hologram into the room. It was a spinning wireframe of a massive, ancient structure. It looked like a throne room floating in the void, surrounded by machinery that dwarfed the council's palace. Identified, the AI announced. Archive match found in the Forbidden History files. This is the throne engine,
Go towards circle.
Lyra gasped. She stepped back, her hand covering her mouth.
Again, slowly.
The throne engine, she whispered. The myth,
Station?
the machine my ancestors built to judge the kings. It was real, and it is waiting for you. The AI added, the coordinates are active. Someone wants you to go home. Princess. Jalen looked at Lyra. He saw the fear in her eyes, but also the dawn of a new purpose. If that machine is real, Jalen said, it has the records, the true history, the proof that the council is illegitimate. Lyra nodded slowly. She picked up the ring, handling it carefully with a piece of cloth. If we go there,
Still over
she
there,
said, we can end them.
Where are you?
We can bring the whole lie crashing down.
Dude, I'm in the fucking circle.
She looked at Jalen,
right outside
but
where
it
you
is a
are.
one-way trip.
You're gonna
Jalen,
have to move. You guys are
if
gonna
we
have
go to
move
Sector
this way,
0,
unless you wanna
there is no running back to the market. We are declaring war. Jalen stood up. He reached out and took her hand, the one
No,
without the
so
ring.
I'm literally close to you. So
I
what do
told
mean?
you, he said, his voice steady.
By yourself.
I am a diplomat, and I know a bad deal when I see one.
Destiny, you need this?
The council's deal is garbage. He squeezed her hand. Let's go find a better one. Lyra smiled. It was a dangerous, beautiful smile. To the throne engine. Then, she said, setting course for Sector 0.
I see.
The AI cheered. Honey, pack your bags. We are going on an adventure. Jalen groaned. Can we please mute the AI? Never, Lyra said, grabbing her blaster. I'm starting to like him.
I'm behind you.
Sector 0 was not empty space. It was a bruise on the face of the galaxy. The Star Skipper shuddered as it dropped out of warp speed and into the nebula. The view outside the cockpit was a swirling, violent tapestry of violet gas and crushed gravity. Here, the laws of physics did not just bend, they broke. Light moved slower than it should, creating a visual lag where the stars seemed to drag behind the ship like comet tails. Jalen gripped the arms of the co-pilot seat. He watched his own hand move to the control panel, but the visual image of his hand arrived a second after he felt the movement. Do not look at your reflection, Lyra warned, her voice tight. She was wrestling with the yoke, her eyes fixed on the navigation scope. The delay causes motion sickness. In this nebula, cause and effect are having an argument. Jalen swallowed hard, forcing his gaze to the forward viewport. Where are we going? He asked. The answer came 2 seconds later. There. Lyra's voice echoed from the air, disembodied. She pointed. Ahead of them, floating in the center of the chaotic storm, was a dead world. It was a planet of gray rock, stripped of atmosphere, silent as a grave. And orbiting it was the ruin. It was an ancient station, immense and spiked, resembling a crown of thorns cast in iron. The material of the station was darker than the space around it. It did not reflect the violet light of the nebula. It drank it. The structure seemed to inhale the ambient starlight, creating a void in the visual field that hurt the eyes to look at directly. The throne engine, Lyra whispered. Alert! The ship's AI chirped, its cheerful voice cutting through the dread like a knife through velvet. We are entering a zone of extreme romantic potential. The lighting outside is moody and dramatic. Would you like me to curate a playlist of tragic love ballads? Mute the damn thing, Jalen said. I sensed tension. The AI continued. Perhaps a couples therapy module? I can simulate a neutral mediator. Lyra flipped a switch, and the AI was finally silenced, though a small red light on the dashboard blinked indignantly. They descended toward the station. The docking bay was a gaping mouth in the side of the metal beast. As they flew closer, Jalen felt a cold pressure in his chest. It was the sensation of being swallowed. The airlock of the ancient station smelled of ozone and dust that had been settling for 3 centuries. The gravity was heavy, pressing down on Jalen's shoulders, making every step an effort.
On health.
They walked down a corridor that seemed to stretch into infinity. The walls were lined with statues of faceless figures, their heads bowed in eternal submission. Lyra walked with a strange certainty. She did not look at the map on her wrist comp. She turned left at a junction, then right, navigating the labyrinth as if she were walking through her own home in the dark. How do you know the way? Jalen whispered. The acoustics of the corridor were strange. His whisper sounded like a shout, then faded instantly into nothing. I have dreamt of this place, Lyra said quietly. Since I was a child, my mother used to sing a lullaby about the Hall of Whispers. I thought it was a fairy tale. She ran her hand along the wall. The dark metal hummed at her touch, a faint line of blue light igniting under her fingertips and trailing behind her like a wake in water. She taught me the crest, Lyra continued, a dragon biting a star.
I don't know what you guys want to do, but
I drew it in the dust of the prison cells. The guards beat me for it, but I never stopped drawing it. She stopped at a heavy blast door. It bore the same crest, the dragon and the star. They erased her. Jalen. The council. I cannot find a single picture of her in the public archives. They made her a ghost before they made her a corpse. Jalen reached out and placed his hand over hers on the cold metal. "We are going to find her," he said.
Oh,
"If this machine remembers everything, it remembers her." Lyra looked at him. The blue light from the wall reflected in her eyes, making them look like deep oceans.
I
"I am afraid of what I will find," she confessed. "I am afraid too," Jalen said. "But we opened the door anyway." Lyra nodded. She pressed her palm against the center of the crest. The door groaned, a sound like the earth splitting, and began to slide open. But it did not open to silence. It opened to the sound of slow, sarcastic applause. Standing in the center of the vast atrium beyond the door was a man. He was leaning against a pillar, dressed in a sleek, customized combat suit that cost more than Jalen's entire diplomatic budget. He had a shock of white hair and a smile that was all teeth. Behind him stood 4 figures in heavy, ceremonial armor, the Vow Wardens. They were the Council's elite hunters,
the heavy gun too.
soldiers who had taken vows of silence and violence. They stood perfectly still, their weapons leveled at Jalen and Lyra. "Bravo," the man said. His voice was smooth, rich, and terrifyingly casual. "I must admit I lost the betting pool. I had you dying in the asteroid belt." Lyra stiffened. Her hand dropped to the blaster at her hip. "Varric," she hissed. "Princess," the man named Varric replied with a mock bow. "You look terrible. Prison gray is really not your color. You should have worn the wedding dress. It would have made for a better corpse." He turned his gaze to Jalen. He looked the diplomat up and down with amused contempt. "And this must be the husband," Varric drawled. "Jalen Cade, the man who talks. I read your file, Cade. You are very good at negotiating tariffs. I wonder how you negotiate with a hollow point round." He stepped forward, ignoring the weapons Lyra and Jalen were pointing at him. "You are out of your depth, little diplomat," Varric said, winking at Lyra. "She is a storm. You are just a paper umbrella. You should step aside and let the professionals handle family business." Jalen felt a spike of hot jealousy in his gut. It was irrational, stupid, and exactly what Varric wanted. The man was charming, lethal, and he spoke to Lyra with a familiarity that made Jalen's skin crawl.
You got him. He's low.
"We are not here to negotiate," Jalen said, stepping in front of Lyra. Varric laughed. "Oh, look at that. The umbrella thinks it is a shield. Kill the human." Varric ordered the wardens, his tone bored. "Leave the girl. I want to collect the bounty on her alive." The Vow Wardens moved. They were fast, unnaturally so. "Run!" Lyra shouted. She fired at the ceiling. The shot hit a cluster of ancient power conduits. Sparks rained down, creating a curtain of fire between them and the hunters. Jalen and Lyra dove behind a row of databanks as plasma fire scorched the air where they had been standing. The atrium became a battlefield. But the nebula outside was affecting the fight inside. The gravity in the room fluctuated. Jalen popped up to fire, but his shot curved upward, missing a warden by inches. "Aim low," Lyra yelled. "The gravity is shifting."
What time is it?
Varric was moving through the chaos like a dancer, firing with a pistol in each hand. He was laughing. "Give it up! Lyra!" Varric shouted over the noise of the fight. "The council is offering a pardon. You can go back to your cell. It is safer than this." Lyra ignored him. She tossed a grenade, not an explosive, but a gravity disruptor she had bought in the black market. It detonated near 2 of the wardens. The localized gravity field reversed instantly. The 2 armored figures were slammed violently into the ceiling, then dropped back to the floor with a bone-shattering crunch. 2 down, Jalen counted, reloading his weapon. Varric saw his men fall inside. "Good help is so hard to find these days," he muttered. He holstered one pistol and pulled a long serrated knife from his belt. He vaulted over the cover, moving straight for Jalen. Jalen tried to fire, but his gun jammed, dust from the ruin clogging the intake. Varric was on him in a second. He kicked the gun out of Jalen's hand and slammed him against the wall. The knife was at Jalen's throat before he could blink. Varric grinned, his face inches from Jalen's. "Tell me, husband," Varric whispered, "does she kiss as good as she fights? Or are you just a convenience?" Jalen didn't struggle. He looked Varric in the eye. "She kisses better than you fight," Jalen said. Varric's grin faltered for a microsecond. Jalen used that fraction of time. He didn't use a soldier's move.
Who is that?
He used a dirty trick he had learned in a dockside bar negotiation gone wrong. He stomped on Varric's instep with the heavy heel of his boot and head-butted him in the nose. Varric stumbled back, swearing, blood gushing from his nose. Lyra was there.
It's like you're cut off.
She didn't
No
use a
more
weapon.
Fortnite.
She used the environment.
7 hours.
She shot the supports of a heavy lighting rig hanging above Varric. The metal structure crashed down. Varric rolled away, but not fast enough. The rig pinned his legs to the floor. He screamed, the charm vanishing instantly. Lyra stood over him, her blaster leveled at his head. "You talk too much." "Varric," Lyra said coldly. She didn't kill him. She shot the control panel next to him, sealing the blast door and locking him in the atrium with his broken legs and his dead men. "Come on," she said to Jalen. "The core is ahead." They ran deeper into the station. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a sharp, throbbing pain in Jalen's ribs where Varric had slammed him. They reached a narrow bridge spanning a chasm that dropped into the planet's core. The air here was freezing. Jalen stumbled. His vision swam. "Jalen!" Lyra grabbed him before he could fall. She pulled him into a small alcove, sheltered from the wind of the abyss. She checked his ribs. "You are hurt," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm fine," Jalen gasped. "Just a bruise. It's not fine." Lyra snapped. Her composure cracked. The mask of the pirate queen slipped, revealing the terrified young woman beneath. "You almost died back there," she said. "Because of me." Varric was right. "You are collateral damage in my story. I am dragging you into a grave." Jalen looked at her. He saw the guilt eating her alive. He saw the fear that she was becoming exactly what the council said she was, a destroyer. He reached out and took her face in his hands. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "I am not a prop. I am not a victim. I chose to come here. I am terrified." "Jalen," she whispered. "I am terrified that I will become like them, that I will use people like fuel to get what I want, that I will use you." Jalen leaned his forehead against hers. "You didn't shoot Varric," Jalen reminded her. "You could have executed him. You didn't. That is the difference. The council destroys. You spare." He pulled back slightly, looking into her eyes. "And as for me, I am not here because of the contract. I am here because I want to be. I am not your subject, Lyra, and I am not your owner." Lyra looked at him, searching his face for any sign of deception. She found none. "No ownership," she whispered. "No ownership." Jalen agreed. "No lies, no destiny without choice. Just us, partners." Lyra let out a breath she seemed to have been holding since the wedding.
There's only like 5 people that have.
She closed the distance between them. She kissed him. It was not like the kiss in the safe room, which had been frantic and desperate. This was slow. It was deliberate. It was a seal on a new kind of vow.
On Twitch?
She held him, her hands gripping his jacket, shaking not with weakness, but with the release of rage and fear.
Chat, am I
"Thank
real
you,"
quick? I don't think you're a mod. I
she
think you're
breathed
a
against his
VIP.
lips. "Now," Jalen
You
said,
made me a mod
pulling
in
away
yours.
gently and wincing as his ribs protested.
Uh-huh.
"Let's go meet your ancestors." The core of the station was a spherical chamber large enough to hold a city. In the center, Suspended in a beam of pure white light was the throne engine. It was not a chair. It was a colossal column of crystal and data glass, pulsing with a heartbeat of light. As they stepped onto the platform, the machine woke up.
Hi, Audrey.
Identity scan initiated. A voice boomed. It was not robotic. It sounded like a chorus of 1,000 voices speaking in unison. Arclight bloodline detected. Welcome home. Daughter. Lyra walked toward the column. She looked small against the scale of the machine. Show me, she commanded. Show me the truth. The air in the chamber shimmered. The machine projected a hologram that filled the room. It was a window into the past. Jalen watched in horror as the history of the galaxy played out before them. He saw the Arclight Dominion, not a tyranny, but a golden age of science and art. He saw Lyra's mother, a woman with the same violet skin and silver hair, holding a baby Lyra. Then he saw the betrayal. He saw the counselors, younger, hungry men, invading the palace. He saw the poisoned wine. He saw the slaughter. He saw the records being deleted, the history books being rewritten in real time. He saw the founding of the Heliox Combine. The Council sold the Dominion's defense fleet to the arms dealers to fund their coup. It was all there. Every murder, every bribe, every lie that formed the foundation of the current Federation.
Not in the VC.
They are not a government, Jalen whispered. They are a crime syndicate. The hologram shifted. It showed a document, a lineage record, current status of Arclight line, one survivor, Lyra Vex, legitimacy of council rule, 0. Lyra stared at the image of her mother. Tears ran down her face, glowing faintly in the light of the machine. They killed her because she wouldn't sell the fleet, Lyra said, her voice hollow.
I don't know.
She refused to start a war for profit, so they killed her and started 10 wars instead. She turned to Jalen. We have it. We have the proof. She reached into the console and pulled out a data core. It was alive, pulsing with the same light as the machine. It was warm to the touch. This ends them, Jalen said. If we broadcast this, the Federation dissolves. The military will turn on them. The people will riot. Wait, the voice of the engine spoke again. The light in the chamber turned red. The protocol of restoration requires a vessel. The engine declared, you hold the truth, daughter, but truth without power is merely a complaint. A new hologram appeared. It showed Lyra sitting on a throne, her eyes glowing with the terrible power of the station. To activate the full defense grid. To use the engine to crush the usurpers instantly. You must bind yourself to the core.
I don't know.
Lyra froze. Bind myself? She asked. Permanent integration, the engine explained. You will become the mind of the station. You will wield the power of a god. You will end the war in a single day. But you will never leave this room again. Your biology will be fused with the machine. You will cease to be a woman. You will become the Dominion. Jalen felt the blood drain from his face. No, he said. Lyra. No.
Excuse me, just passing through.
Lyra looked at the hologram of herself, powerful, eternal, and alone.
Ignore me.
It is the only way to be sure, Lyra whispered.
Ignore me.
If I take the command, I can save everyone and I can stop the council today. No more fighting, no more running. But you lose your life, Jalen said, stepping toward her. You lose yourself. That isn't a victory. Lyra, that is just a different kind of prison. The council put you in a glass cage. This machine wants to put you in a crystal one.
Oops.
Lyra looked at the data core in her hand, then at the tempting power of the throne. The galaxy needs a ruler, the engine intoned. The galaxy needs a choice, Jalen shouted at the machine. He grabbed Lyra's shoulders. Look at me. Not the machine. Me. Lyra turned her gaze to him. The gold in her eyes was swirling, conflicted. We can fight them another way, Jalen said. The hard way. The messy way. We take the data. We run. We broadcast it. We let the people decide. Do not trade your soul for a quick win.
Destiny's dead.
Lyra looked at the throne. It offered safety. It offered vengeance. Then she looked at Jalen. He was bruised, exhausted, and terrified for her. He was the only person who had ever offered her a choice. She stepped back from the console. I am not a machine, she said to the engine, and I am not a goddess. If you refuse the binding, you will have no defense against the fleets that are coming. The engine warned, you will be vulnerable.
There's a
I know, Lyra said.
slurp right here if you want to
She took Jalen's hand. But I won't be alone. She pulled the data core free. The red light of the chamber faded, returning to a neutral white. Data transfer complete, the engine said, sounding almost disappointed. Good luck, daughter. You will need it. Run, Lyra said. They turned and sprinted back toward the bridge. As they ran, Jalen's wrist comp beeped. It was the ship's AI. I hate to spoil the moment. The AI chimed in, but I am detecting a massive energy signature entering the system. It appears the Council did not appreciate you hanging up on them. How many ships? Jalen asked. All of them, the AI replied cheerfully. And they are charging weapons. I suggest you hurry. I have warmed up the engines and chilled the celebratory beverages, though I suspect we will not have time to drink them. They burst out of the station and into the airlock. The nebula above was no longer empty. It was filled with the burning engines of a Council war fleet. Lyra looked at Jalen. She squeezed his hand, ready to start a revolution. Husband. Jalen looked at the fleet that wanted to kill them.
They're still
He looked at the woman who had just turned down godhood to hold his
I
hand.
think you might be good.
I do, he said. They jumped into the ship, and the Star Skipper blasted off into the storm. The return to the High Council's capital system was not a homecoming. It was a descent into a fortress of lies. The Star Skipper, battered and scorched from the nebula storm, drifted silently on the outer edge of the system's gravity well. Inside the cockpit, Jalen Cade stared at the holographic news feeds that flooded the dashboard. The cheerful AI had been silenced, leaving only the cold drone of the Council's propaganda machine to fill the air. On the screens, Jalen saw his own face. It was a distorted image, taken from a security angle that made him look deranged, his eyes wide, his posture aggressive. The headline scrolling beneath his face was written in the jagged red script of a priority alert. Human envoy betrays Federation. Diplomat Cade masterminds terror plot. Earth fleet blockaded pending investigation. Jalen watched as the feed cut to a live view of the Earth delegation fleet. His fleet. His people. They were surrounded. Massive Council dreadnoughts hung over the slender human vessels like vultures waiting for a pulse to stop. The weapons ports of the dreadnoughts were open, glowing with pre-fire energy. They are going to slaughter them, Jalen said, his voice barely a whisper. They are positioning my crew as the enemy combatants. If a single human ship flinches, the Council will vaporize the entire fleet and call it self-defense. Lyra Vex stood behind him, her arms crossed over her chest. She was no longer wearing the prison gray or the light-woven wedding gown.
Yeah, pretty sure.
She wore a scavenged flight suit from the courier ship's locker, dark and utilitarian,
Well, you shouldn't-
but
you
she
weren't
still
supposed to
looked
go
like
that- go
royalty
that
in
way. You're supposed to
exile.
Come back the way you came.
She watched the screen with eyes that had seen too many cycles of this specific kind of violence. They do not want a fight, Lyra said. They want a massacre. A massacre is easier to sell on the evening news than a war. It is cleaner. She reached past him and tapped the screen, freezing the image of the dreadnoughts. I have to surrender. Jalen. Jalen spun the pilot's chair around. The mechanism groaned in protest. No, he said flatly. It is the only variable that stops the clock. Lyra argued, her voice rising. If I turn myself in, if I walk into the council chamber and confess to whatever insanity they have scripted, they lose their excuse to fire on your ships. They get their villain. Earth gets to play the victim. Your people survive, and you die, Jalen said. They will execute you before the sun rises, and then they will rewrite the history books to say you were a monster who seduced a foolish human diplomat. They will erase the Arclight name forever. I am already a ghost, Lyra shouted. She slammed her hand against the bulkhead. What does it matter if I die in a cell or on a throne? My life is the currency here. Jalen, let me spend it to save your fleet. Jalen stood up.
Wait, where are you at?
He stepped into her space, forcing her to look up at him. The cramped cockpit felt suddenly intimate, charged with the desperate friction of two people standing on the edge of a cliff. You are not currency, Jalen said, his voice hard and low. You are a person, and we are not playing by their script anymore. We agreed. No ownership, no lies. If you surrender, you are letting them own you again. You are letting them win. Lyra looked away, her jaw tight. I cannot watch them burn, she whispered. I cannot be the reason another family dies. They won't burn, Jalen promised, because we are going to burn the council first. We have the data core. We have the proof. We just need to get it to the broadcast tower inside the palace. The palace is a fortress, Lyra said. The borders are sealed. The sky is full of killer drones. How do we get in? We cannot just knock on the front door.
Right here, he's running.
Jalen looked at the schematic of the capital city displayed on the secondary monitor.
In your sight right now.
He traced a line from the orbital docks down to the glittering spire of the council palace. We don't go through the front door, Jalen said. You spent 5 years in their cells. Lyra, you know the layout better than the architects. You told me you used to draw the crest in the dust. You know the bones of that building. Lyra looked at the map. She traced the lower levels, the dark underbelly of the floating city where the waste processing and air recycling units churned. The service tunnels, she realized. The arteries? Jalen nodded. Full circle. Wife. We go back to the cage, but this time, we are the ones holding the key. The service tunnels of the council palace smelled of ozone, sewage, and expensive perfume that had soured. It was the scent of a civilization that was rotting from the inside out. They had abandoned the Star Skipper in a debris field and used a maintenance skiff to slip through the planetary defense grid, masking their heat signature by flying dangerously close to the exhaust vents of the atmospheric scrubbers. Now, they were crawling through the maintenance shafts that ran beneath the marble floors of the gala halls. Lyra led the way. She moved with a terrifying familiarity. She knew which pipes were hot, which sensors were blind, and which grates were loose.
Are we fighting or I don't know.
She was navigating the architecture of her own trauma. Jalen followed,
Too much.
clutching the data core wrapped in a protective cloth. The device was warm against his chest, pulsing with the rhythmic heartbeat of the throne engine's truth.
They don't see me, so I don't know.
We are under the grand ballroom, Lyra whispered, stopping beneath a ventilation grate. Above them, the sound of laughter drifted down.
I think
It was the tinkling, crystal-sharp laughter of the ultra-rich. Jalen could hear the clink of glasses, the swell of synthetic waltz music, and the low hum of conversation. They are having a party, Jalen said, staring up at the slats of light cutting through the darkness.
Oh, right here.
They are celebrating the war, Lyra corrected.
It's fine.
The council always throws a gala when they mobilize the fleet. It keeps the donors happy. It convinces the diplomats that everything is under control. She looked at Jalen. Her violet skin was smudged with grease, her silver hair tied back in a severe knot. We need a way into the broadcast suite, she said. It is on the top spire. The elevators will be DNA locked. We need an access code, Jalen said. A high-level one.
Yep.
Lyra grinned.
Maybe just get inside
It was a
gas
sharp,
station.
dangerous expression that belonged to the pirate queen, not the princess. I know just the man. She pointed upward. Lord Vexler, the liaison for the Heliox Combine. He loves these parties. He loves to drink expensive nectar and brag about his profit margins. He will have the codes. How do we get to him? Jalen asked. We are dressed for a sewer, not a ball. Lyra reached into her pack and pulled out 2 items she had swiped from the laundry processing unit they had passed 3 levels back. They were staff uniforms, stiff, white tunics with high collars and face masks designed to make the servants invisible to the guests. We blend in, Lyra said. No one looks at the help. The grand ballroom was a kaleidoscope of excess. The floor was made of suspended glass, revealing the city lights thousands of feet below. The ceiling was a projection of a conquered nebula, pink and gold. Hundreds of dignitaries mingled, holding flutes of bubbling blue liquid. They wore silks that cost more than a colony ship. They laughed with their heads thrown back, exposing throats that had never known thirst. Jalen and Lyra moved through the crowd, carrying trays of hors d'oeuvres. The masks covered their noses and mouths, leaving only their eyes visible. Jalen kept his head down, offering trays of spiced algae cakes to women who looked through him as if he were furniture. It was a surreal nightmare.
Towards circle, yeah.
Jalen saw a hologram floating in the center of the room showing the blockade of his fleet. The guests were watching it like it was a sporting event.
That zip line, no? And go over
Look
here.
at the formation,
Or is
the
that
Grand
circle?
Duke murmured, stuffing a pastry into his
You don't wanna come
mouth.
up here?
The council dreadnoughts are
Diagram?
beautiful. Are they not?
Okay.
The humans look so small. Jalen's hand tightened on the tray. He wanted to scream. He wanted to overturn the table and show them the blood on their hands.
I don't fucking know.
Lyra nudged him. Focus, she hissed under her breath.
I can go down right here. There's a
She
zip line.
nodded toward a secluded alcove draped in velvet. There. Lord Vexler sat on a plush divan, surrounded by sycophants.
Oh.
He was a large man, his skin a pale, oily green.
You guys
He wore a
well, I
suit
think
made
you
of shifting scales that shimmered
get
with his
advantage of-
mood.
Ahead of him. Take the zip.
Currently.
Take the zip.
They were a satisfied gold. He was the man who sold the missiles that were aimed at Jalen's crew. Lyra and Jalen approached. Vexler waved his empty glass at Lyra without looking at her.
Okay.
Refill, girl, and make it the vintage stock.
So
Lyra bowed. She took the glass. She walked to the service bar, poured a drink, and then slipped a small, clear tablet into the liquid. It dissolved instantly. She returned and handed him the glass. Vexler drained it in one swallow. Excellent. He burped. 10 seconds later, his golden scales turned a sickly gray. He clutched his stomach.
we could
Excuse
start- you
me.
see how the circle's still
Vexler
moving out?
wheezed,
Maybe
heaving
we should just
himself up.
stay within it,
I
to be
need
honest.
the lavatory.
But it's kind of open.
He stumbled away from his entourage, heading for the private suites reserved for VIPs. Jalen and Lyra followed, dropping their trays on a side table.
This way.
Vexler
honest.
staggered into a luxurious bathroom suite lined with gold mirrors.
No, fall down.
He leaned over the sink, splashing water on his face. The door clicked shut behind him and
Use
locked.
this rock as a.
Vexler spun around. Who is there? He demanded. This is a private. Lyra pulled off her mask. She pulled off the servant's cap, letting her silver hair spill down. Hello? Vexler, she said. Vexler froze. His eyes bulged. You,
Why is it
he
so
stammered. You are dead. The news said you were dead. The news says a lot of things, Lyra
Okay,
said, stepping
so
closer.
You guys want to move here?
She did not draw a
Dude, the circle
weapon.
keeps fucking moving,
She simply
bro.
walked toward him,
So
radiating a cold, terrifying, predatory intent.
Yeah, we need to.
Jalen
yeah,
stood
stay
by
with
the
her.
door,
Okay.
blocking the exit. He held up a small recording
This
device.
is kind of good. This is kind of good.
Lord Vexler, Jalen said, his voice calm
They're
and
gonna just be
professional.
coming from this way, so we
I
can
am
watch her
Envoy
back.
Jalen Cade. We are conducting an exit interview regarding your contract with
They
the
don't see us
Council.
here. Perfect.
Vexler laughed nervously. He looked between the human diplomat and the alien prisoner. You are insane.
So I'm looking. Looks like
Guards!
it's gonna be moving
The
here, so
soundproofing in this room is
keep
rated
moving.
for orbital bombardment, Lyra said softly. Scream all you want. No one is coming. She picked up a towel from the rack and slowly twisted it between her hands. You poisoned me, Vexler gasped, clutching his stomach again. Just a mild paralytic, Lyra lied. It mimics the symptoms of a heart attack. The antidote is quite simple. But first,
They're flying in.
you are going to tell us the truth. About what? Vexler sweated. About the false flags, Jalen said. About the order to target my fleet. About who really hired you to start this war. Vexler sneered. You think a confession matters? The council owns the
Nope,
courts.
I'm in the open. I'm in the open.
They own the media. We are not going to the courts, Lyra said. We are going to the broadcast tower,
Yep.
and you are
Yep,
going
I'm
to
gonna
give us
die.
your access
Wait,
codes.
I'm healing.
Never, Vexler spat. Lyra stopped twisting the towel. She looked at him with eyes that were suddenly very old.
Fuck.
Vexler,
Nice.
do you know what happens to a man when the throne engine judges him?
All right.
Vexler blinked. The throne engine
We're
is a
ending
myth.
there, for sure.
Lyra stepped into his personal space. She leaned down and whispered something in his ear. It was a string of numbers, a date, and a location. Vexler turned the color of ash. How do you know that? He whispered. Because I saw the records. Lyra said, I saw the receipts. I know you sold the guidance chips that killed the colony on Rim 3. I know you took a bonus for every child that didn't make it to the bunkers. She pulled back, her face hard as stone. Give us the codes, and I let you live to face a trial. Refuse, and I leave you here with the poison. Vexler looked at Jalen. He looked for mercy in the human's eyes. Jalen held up the recorder.
Somebody playing Fortnite, or should
I am a
we-
diplomat, Jalen said coldly. But today, I am off the clock. Vexler broke. He rattled off the alphanumeric string, his voice shaking. Lyra typed it into her wrist comp. It
How
turned
many
green.
lanes? 4 or 5?
Thank
Maybe
you,
4?
Lyra said. She reached into her pocket and tossed him a small sugar pill.
Okay.
The antidote, she said. It was a placebo, but Vexler swallowed it desperately. Jalen opened the
6 or
door.
7? Really?
We have what we need, he said.
Really?
They moved toward the elevators, the stolen codes burning a hole in Lyra's
Well,
pocket.
Maybe
But the
4 was
palace
code
security
red.
was
Maybe she's
tightening.
right.
The gala had been a distraction, but the grid was waking up. They were halfway down a service corridor when the ambush hit. A squad of VOW wardens dropped from the ceiling vents. They made no sound. They were just suddenly there, blades of hard light humming in the air. Ambush! Lyra shouted. She shoved Jalen through a doorway into a narrow stairwell. A laser bolt scorched the frame where Jalen's head had been a second before.
Oh, what the fuck does that
Lyra
mean?
fired back, her blaster illuminating the corridor in strobes of blue light. She hit the door controls, and the blast door slammed shut, sealing them in the stairwell. Sparks showered down as the wardens began cutting through the door from the other side. Up! Jalen yelled. We have to go up. They sprinted up the stairs, lungs burning. They climbed 10 flights, 20, the sound of the cutting torch fading below them. They collapsed on a landing halfway up the spire. It was a small, dusty space hidden behind the machinery of the elevator shaft. Jalen leaned against the wall, gasping for air. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Lyra slid down the opposite wall. Her hands were shaking. She looked at her blaster, then at Jalen. We almost didn't make it, she whispered. Jalen looked at her. The adrenaline was crashing, leaving him raw and exposed. The fear of losing her was a physical ache in his chest. He crossed the small space in 2 strides. He dropped to his knees in front of her. Are you hurt? He asked, his hands hovering over her shoulders, checking for wounds. I am fine, Lyra breathed. Just scared. She looked up at him. Her eyes were wide, dark with the dilation of fear and something else. Jalen, she said. She reached out and pulled him close. It was instinct. It was the desperate need to affirm life in the face of death. Jalen buried his face in the crook of her neck, breathing in the scent of dust and ozone and her. Lyra's hands tangled in his hair. She pulled his face to hers. Kiss me, she demanded. Make it stop. Make the fear stop. Jalen's lips brushed hers. He wanted to. God, he wanted to lose himself in her, to let the physical sensation drown out the sound of the cutting torches below and the dread of the execution above. But he stopped. He pulled back. Just an inch. No, Jalen whispered. Lyra blinked, hurt flashing in her eyes. Why? She asked. Do you not want me? I want you more than I want my next breath, Jalen said, his voice ragged. But not like this, not as a painkiller. He took her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him, really look at him. You told me once that intimacy cannot be a script. It cannot be a reaction to fear. If we do this, if we cross this line, it has to be because we are choosing each other. Not because we are afraid of dying. Lyra stared at him. The frantic energy in her eyes began to settle. The panic receded, replaced by a slow, burning warmth. She understood. He was refusing to use her. Even now, even in the dark, he was holding the line of consent he had promised her in the cell.
Oh, shit.
You are a stubborn man.
Okay.
Jalen Cade, she whispered, a small, genuine smile touching her lips. Jalen rested his forehead against hers. We are going to survive this, he said. And when we do, when the sky is clear, then I will kiss you until you forget every cage you were ever in. Lyra closed her eyes and leaned into him. It was a moment of tenderness, quiet and profound, amidst the chaos. It was not the desperate groping of victims. It was the embrace of partners.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, she said softly. That is a better deal. The sound of boots echoed from the stairs above them. They stood up, the moment broken but the bond reinforced. We have to move, Lyra said. The broadcast tower is 2 floors up. They reached the top of the stairwell. The door opened into the sleek silver corridor of the broadcast suite. Standing at the end of the hall was a figure.
2 phones now.
It was not a guard. It was Vice Envoy Corin, Jalen's second in command, the man Jalen had trusted with his life, with his ship, with his crew. Corin stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking regretful. Corin, Jalen exclaimed, relief flooding his voice. You made it in. Did you bring a squad? We have the data. Jalen started forward, holding out the data core. Corin did not move. He did not smile. Stop, Jalen, Corin said gently.
Why the fuck?
Jalen slowed.
What the
He
fuck?
saw the look in Corin's eyes. It was not the look of an ally. It was the look of a man who had done the math and didn't like the answer. Don't, Lyra warned, grabbing Jalen's arm. It's a trap. Corin sighed.
Like 5 times.
I am sorry, Jalen, truly. But I had to secure the safety of the fleet. What did you do? Jalen asked, the blood turning to ice in his veins. I made a deal, Corin said. The council agreed to spare the Earthships. They agreed to lift the sanctions. All they asked for in return was the 2 of you. Jalen stared at his friend. You sold us out, Jalen whispered. I saved humanity, Corin shouted, his composure cracking. Look at the odds. Jalen, we cannot win a war against the council. This is the only way. 1 bad diplomat and 1 alien criminal in exchange for billions of lives. It is a simple calculation. It is cowardice. Jalen roared. He reached for his blaster, but it was too late. The walls of the corridor slid open. Containment foam sprayed from hidden nozzles. It hit Jalen and Lyra before they could move, hardening instantly into a rock-hard shell that pinned them to the floor. Jalen struggled, but he couldn't move his arms, and he couldn't reach the data core. Corin walked over and picked up the device from where it had fallen. "I will destroy this," Corin said sadly. "It is better if the truth stays buried. Peace requires
Ew,
lies.
no, what do you mean?
Jalen,
That's how I was.
you taught me that." "No," Jalen
I
rasped.
had that same
"I taught you
energy
that peace requires justice."
towards Fortnite.
Corin turned away. "Guards,"
Now look at me.
he signaled. "Take them to the chamber. The broadcast is waiting." The public hearing was a mirror image of the wedding, but stripped of all pretense of
Okay, dried a
joy.
little crusty.
The council chamber was packed.
This is his peanut butter.
The 9 counselors sat on their restored thrones, mechanically locked in place so they could not be lowered again. The cameras were rolling. The galaxy was watching.
Speak.
Jalen stood in the center of the obsidian floor. He was not in armor this time. He was in his torn, dirty tunic. His hands were bound. Lyra was not beside him. Envoy Cade. The High Counselor boomed. "You have been charged with high treason. You have been accused of conspiring with the alien terrorist Lyra Vex to incite a war between Earth and the Federation."
Crazy.
The counselor leaned forward. "But we are merciful. We know that human minds are
He always tries humping my cat.
malleable.
Hey, not the
We
chair.
know that this creature possesses pheromonal abilities that can cloud judgment." Jalen looked up.
He's looking
He
at the
saw
chair
where
for
this
no
was
reason.
going. They were offering him a life raft.
Oh my god.
"Denounce her,"
Look at him.
the counselor commanded. "Admit that she controlled you. Admit that the plot was hers alone. Do this,
Oh.
and
wait a
Earth will be
minute.
spared.
Wait a minute.
You will be
wait a minute,
stripped
you
of
guys can't
rank,
see that.
but
Hold
you
on.
will live." Jalen looked at the camera drones. He looked at the faces of the counselors. He thought about Corin's betrayal. He thought about the
Okay.
fleet. He thought
Okay.
about Lyra in the stairwell,
Okay.
asking for a kiss
Okay.
to stop the fear, and his refusal to cheapen it.
Oh shit.
"Bring her in," Jalen said quietly.
Back.
"What?" the counselor asked. "Bring her in," Jalen shouted. "I will not speak to an empty room." The counselor
You guys
nodded
didn't
to
see
the
that, right?
guards. "Bring the prisoner." The doors opened. Lyra Vex walked in. She was in shackles again, heavy, gravity-weighted cuffs on her wrists and ankles. She was bruised. Her flight suit was ripped. But she did not look like she had in part 1.
Did
She
you
was
guys
not
see
scanning
that?
the room for weaknesses. She was not smiling faintly. She walked with her head high. Her eyes were cold. Solid gold, void of humor. She looked at Jalen, and she gave him a nearly imperceptible nod. "Do not break," her eyes said. Jalen turned to the High Counselor.
Third?
"You want me to call her a monster," Jalen said, his voice amplified across the billion screens. "You want me to say she tricked me?" "Yes,"
Actually first.
the counselor urged. "Speak the truth, Envoy."
All right, he's
"The
done.
truth," Jalen said, "is that she is the only honorable person in this room." The chamber erupted in gasps. "The truth,"
done for now.
Jalen continued,
I'll say
shouting
something
over the
to-
noise, "is that you are murderers. You killed her family. You sold our safety to weaponsmiths.
Yeah, sure, buddy.
And you are so afraid of a single woman that you
Wait,
had
did
to
guys
invent
see
a war
what was
just
in
to
my
kill her."
corner of my room or no?
"Silence him," the counselor shrieked. Jalen looked at Lyra. "I choose her," Jalen yelled. "I choose the truth." Lyra's face
Back
didn't change,
to-
but tears
What should I
welled
do,
in her
guys?
eyes. She stood straighter. She had been right to hope for a conscience. The High Counselor slammed his fist down. "Enough! Proceed to the annulment execution." The floor between Jalen and Lyra opened. A device rose up, a singularity guillotine. It was a loop of energy designed to sever the bond between atoms. It was designed to unmake a person. "Put her in it," the counselor ordered. Guards grabbed Lyra. They dragged her toward the humming ring of death. Lyra did not fight. She looked at Jalen one last time. "Run,
Shall we
husband,"
play
she
some
mouthed.
Fortnite?
But Jalen did not run. He strained against his bonds, screaming her name. The executioner raised his hand to activate the loop. And then,
Dude,
the world shook. It was not an explosion. It was a pulse. A deep, resonant thrum washed through the palace. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It vibrated in the marrow of Jalen's bones. The lights in the chamber flickered and died, replaced by a deep, throbbing crimson glow. The singularity guillotine powered down with a whine of failure. The guards holding Lyra stumbled, clutching their heads. The High Counselor stood up, terror etched on his face. "What is that?" he screamed. "What is happening?" Lyra looked up. Her eyes began to glow, matching the crimson pulse of the room. She smiled, but it was not a human smile. "The throne engine," she whispered, her voice carrying over the chaos. It woke up. The pulse hit again, harder this time. The building groaned. The ancient protocols were overriding the council's locks. The station in the nebula was reaching out across the void, answering the call of the bloodline. The trial was over. The judgment had begun. The council chamber, once a sterile amphitheater of absolute control, had become the throat of a screaming god. The crimson pulse that had begun with the awakening of the throne engine did not stop. It deepened, resonating through the obsidian floor and vibrating in the teeth of every person in the room. The marble walls, which had stood silent for 3 centuries, began to shift. Panels slid back to reveal ancient, glowing circuitry that pulsed in time with Lyra Vex's heartbeat. The High Counselor stood on the dais, his face a mask of waxen terror. He slammed his hand against his command console, shouting orders that went unheard. "Guards! Killer! Override the system! Why are the drones not firing?" The security drones, the silent metal wasps that had enforced the council's will for generations, hovered in the air. Their optical sensors, usually a menacing red, cycled to a calm, obedient blue. They did not look at Lyra. They turned, slowly and deliberately, to face the 9 counselors. "The palace is not malfunctioning," Lyra said. Her voice was not loud, but the acoustics of the room carried it to every corner, amplifying it without distortion. "It is remembering." She stood in the center of the room, the shackles on her wrists popping open with a sharp metallic click as the magnetic locks disengaged automatically. She rubbed her wrists, her golden eyes fixed on the men who had tried to erase her bloodline. The broadcast feeds, which had been set to transmit her execution, were now streaming something else entirely. The holographic projectors in the ceiling flared to life, filling the air above the dais with cascading streams of data. It was the truth, citizens of the Federation. Lyra spoke, looking directly into the nearest camera drone. "Do not look away." On a billion screens across the galaxy, the image of the monster wife vanished. In its place appeared the documents Jalen and Lyra had uncovered in the throne engine. Contracts bearing the High Counselor's digital signature authorizing the bombardment of civilian colonies to drive up stock prices for the Heliox Combine. Assassination orders for political rivals disguised as shuttle accidents. And finally, the lineage records. The unedited original history of the Arclight Dominion, showing the date the council murdered Lyra's mother and seized the throne. The silence in the council chamber was absolute, broken only by the whirring of the cooling fans in the ancient walls. The High Counselor looked at the floating evidence of his own damnation. He looked at the guards, who had lowered their weapons, their loyalty shattered by the undeniable reality projecting above their heads. He looked at Corin, Jalen's betrayer, who stood by the execution pit, staring at the screens with a face the color of ash. "It is a fabrication," the High Counselor screamed, his voice cracking. "It is an AI trick, a deep fake." But the people watching did not believe him. The reaction was instantaneous. On the perimeter monitors, Reports began to
Yeah,
flash.
I love the
Riots
game,
in the
but
lower districts,
I just need a
strikes in
break
the
from it.
shipyards. The illusion of benevolent order,
I
maintained
don't
for
even, at the
300
moment, I don't
years,
even
evaporated
have
in
the
3
energy
minutes. We have to
learn
leave.
like any combos
The
or
counselor
anything.
on the
I'm like to
left
the point where I'm
hissed,
just like, fuck
grabbing the
this
high
game.
counselor's arm.
Fuck
The
King.
shuttle bay. Now. The 9 men scrambled from their thrones, abandoning their dignity in a frantic rush toward the emergency exit behind the dais.
And I've
They
never
did
played
not get
Fortnite
far.
before, so it's
The
actually
blast
really
door
fun.
slammed shut with a finality that shook the floor.
Hi, Drip.
The lock turned
Big
red.
dose of Tekken King.
The building rejects you, Lyra said calmly.
Congratulations.
You are
Definitely
trespassing.
take a break if you need it, though, okay?
The high counselor spun around, backed against the sealed door like a rat in a trap. His eyes were wild. He looked at the chaos crumbling his empire, and he made a decision born of pure spite. If we burn, the counselor snarled, pulling a heavy black keycard from his robes, then the galaxy burns with us.
Don't worry.
He ran to the tactical console built into the center of the dais. It was the manual override for the planetary defense grid, the ultimate failsafe.
But I still play it for fun.
Target the human fleet, the counselor shouted as he jammed the key into the slot. Fire the Starbreaker cannon. Initiate the Scorched Earth protocol.
You cannot play Tekken for fun.
Jalen Cade saw the move before it happened. He was still standing near the execution pit, his hands unbound by the confused guards. He saw the counselor's intent. He knew what the Starbreaker was. It was a weapon designed to crack tectonic plates. If they fired it at the Earth fleet, it wouldn't just destroy the ships, the debris field would shred the orbital habitats and kill millions. It was a distraction, a chaos event massive enough to cover the Council's escape. Jalen did not have a weapon. He did not have armor. He was a diplomat in a torn tunic. But he knew the machine. He had spent 10 years studying Federation protocols. He knew that the Starbreaker had a manual brake, a physical release lever used to abort firing in case of a diplomatic resolution. Jalen ran. He did not run like a soldier. He scrambled up the steps of the dais, slipping on the polished marble, his lungs burning. "Stop him!" the counselor screamed, typing the firing sequence with frantic fingers. A loyalist guard raised a rifle, but Jalen was already moving behind the heavy stone chair of the 7th seat. The shot went wide, shattering a vase. Jalen vaulted over the console. He landed next to the high counselor. The counselor drew a ceremonial dagger, slashing at Jalen's face. Jalen ducked, feeling the wind of the blade on his cheek. He didn't try to fight the man. He ignored the knife. He reached for the heavy brass lever on the side of the console. The firing sequence on the screen flashed red. Charging. Impact in 10 seconds. "You cannot stop it!" the counselor shrieked, stabbing down. The blade caught Jalen in the shoulder, biting deep into the muscle. Jalen cried out, his vision whitening with pain. But he didn't let go of the lever. He slammed his weight against it. The lever was rusted, unused for decades. It wouldn't budge. 5 seconds. Jalen gritted his teeth. He thought of his crew. He thought of the people who had trusted him to talk them out of danger. Talk was over. He shifted his grip, using the leverage of his body weight, and pulled with everything he had left. The lever snapped back with a sound like a gunshot. The console sparked. The screen flashed. Firing aborted, safety lock engaged. The deep, terrifying hum of the weapon charging outside the palace died down. Jalen slumped against the console, clutching his bleeding shoulder. He looked up at the high counselor. Motion denied. Jalen gasped. The counselor stared at the aborted sequence. He raised the dagger again, his eyes full of murder. "I will finish you myself, human filth." He never brought the knife down. A bolt of blue ion energy hit the counselor in the chest. He flew backward, crashing into his own throne, and slid to the floor, unconscious. Jalen looked across the room. Lyra stood there, a guard's rifle in her hands. She lowered the weapon. smoke curling from the barrel. She walked up the
They're
steps of the
somewhere around
dais. The other
Yeah,
counselors
let me grab
cowered
them.
away from her, terrified of the woman they had put in a cage. Lyra didn't look at them. She dropped the rifle and knelt beside Jalen. "You are bleeding," she said, her voice tight. "I have had worse negotiations," Jalen wheezed, trying to smile. Although usually the knives are metaphorical. Lyra ripped a strip of cloth from her tunic and pressed it against his shoulder. Her hands were steady, but her eyes were storm-tossed oceans. "You saved them," she whispered. "You saved everyone." "I just pulled a lever," Jalen said. "You are the one who woke up the house." As if responding to
Here
his
is one of
words,
them.
the palace shuddered again. The floor of the dais split open, revealing a column of pure white light rising from the depths of the structure. It was the interface for the throne engine. The voice of the machine filled the chamber, echoing in the minds of everyone present. Crisis averted. The usurpers are neutralized.
There.
The seat of the Dominion is vacant.
Yeah, her
The
name
light
is
coalesced
Diamond.
into the shape of a crown,
Back up.
floating in the air before Lyra. "Daughter of Arclight,"
She's a big
the
cat.
engine intoned. "Step
That one's
forward,
bigger.
accept the binding, become the sovereign. With one thought, you can purge the remaining
She's
council
literally
fleets.
not, though. She's like the most
With one
loving cat
thought,
ever.
you can bring order to the chaos. Rule as your ancestors ruled."
Like, all she
The
wants
room
to do
went
is cuddle
silent.
all night.
The
Sleep with
surviving
her all day.
counselors looked on in horror. The citizens watching on the broadcast held their breath. Lyra stood up. She looked at the crown of light. It was the ultimate weapon. If she took it, she would be invincible. She could force the galaxy to be good. She could force
How my
peace.
Rob lists know that. No,
She looked at the
hell no.
counselors, shivering in their silk
That is not
robes.
crazy. Let me put her
She could execute them with a
over
thought.
here really quick. I'm gonna show
Then
you
she
guys.
looked at Jalen. He was pale, bleeding on the floor, looking up at her. He didn't speak. He didn't beg her to refuse. He just watched her, trusting her to be who she said she was. No ownership,
The other one,
she had promised him.
she's
If she
Chinese
took
and
the crown,
scratchy, and I don't know what else.
she owned
This
everything.
one is big.
Lyra reached out toward the light. Her hand hovered inches from the interface. "I am not my ancestors," Lyra said to the machine. "The galaxy requires a steady hand."
He
The
won't
engine
let me hold him
countered.
that much. He's a big boy.
"Without a sovereign, there is only entropy." "Then let there be entropy,"
He's about
Lyra
that.
said. "And let us build something real from the pieces." She did not touch the crown. She reached past it, her fingers finding the manual interface keyboard. She began to type.
Okay. No.
"What are you doing?" Jalen asked softly. "I am changing the permissions," Lyra said, her fingers flying across the keys. Warning,
He's a big boy.
the engine boomed. "You are initiating a
He's
transfer of
not cuddly
authority.
like,
This will decentralize the
Diamond.
defense grid and
His
you will
name is,
lose control."
and
"I
then
never wanted control,"
That's Diamond.
Lyra said.
Yeah,
She hit
he's
the final
cutest.
key. Authorization
Okay, now
accepted.
come over here.
Emergency Coalition Protocol activated. The column of light shattered. The crown vanished. On the screens above,
So now you
the
want
command
me?
codes for the Federation fleet turned green. They were no longer
big it
locked
is.
to the Council's biometric data. They were unlocked. Lyra turned to the camera drones. "I am not your queen," she said, her voice ringing with a
Yeah, that
fierce,
is mean.
absolute clarity. "I am the one who opened the door. The rest is up to you." She looked at the guards.
Can you
"Arrest these men,"
Hello?
she said,
Max?
pointing to the counselors. Under the authority of
He's
the
barking
evidence
'cause my neighbor's
provided,
dog is barking.
the guards
Dog.
hesitated for only a second. Then, the captain of the guard
Why are
stepped
you barking?
forward.
Stop.
He looked at the High Counselor, then at Lyra. He bowed his head to Lyra, not
Before I
in
moved
submission,
away, I had a friend
but
back
in respect.
the States whose cat named
"Secure the
George.
prisoners,"
So it's kind of a
the
cute name.
captain ordered. The chaos that followed was the messy, loud, confusing chaos of freedom. The Heliox Combine ships, seeing their contract voided and their patrons arrested, turned and fled into the dark space between stars. The council regime collapsed not with a bang, but with a series of frantic press conferences and surrenders. In the confusion, Lyra and Jalen slipped away.
Poor cat.
They found themselves in a quiet service corridor on the eastern side of the palace. It was a long, glass-walled hallway that looked out over the capital city.
Does she have that many cats?
Smoke rose from a few riots in the distance, but the lights of the city were coming back on, sector by
That's
sector.
a lot of cat litter.
Jalen sat on a bench, a medbot finishing the sutures on his shoulder. He hissed as the laser sealed the skin. Done,
That's a
the bot
lot
chirped,
of cat litter.
rolling away.
Just having
Lyra
these
stood by
two
the
cats?
window, looking out at the
I feel like
dawn
we
breaking
go
over the
through a lot of
horizon.
cat litter.
The orange light caught the silver of her hair,
Crazy.
turning it into a halo of fire. She looked exhausted. She looked smaller now that the adrenaline had faded.
I don't know what to play.
You turned it down, Jalen said quietly.
Good, I guess.
You had the power of a god in your hands, and you gave it away.
She just loves cats. I want to visit.
Lyra
her.
turned
You
to
should
face
visit
him.
her.
She leaned against the glass.
Do it.
Gods are
Surprise.
lonely. Jalen. And they make terrible partners. She walked over to him. She sat on the bench, leaving a respectful distance between them, but her eyes bridged the gap. Are you real? She asked softly. Jalen laughed, a dry, painful sound. My shoulder certainly feels real. Lyra reached out and touched his face. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw, the smudge of dirt on his
Just a little
cheek.
kitten, haven't
in
seen
the
him
cell.
months, and now he's damn.
When
yeah,
they
I feel
told
like
me
they
I had to
grow so
marry a
fast,
human.
too.
I thought you would be a paper man, a signature in a suit. I thought I would
An
have to
absent
break you to
father?
survive. Jalen covered her hand with his own,
That's
and I
amazing.
thought you were a
You're a
nightmare,
deadbeat.
a problem to be solved. Lyra smiled. It was a tired, genuine smile. You solved the problem. Envoy. You broke the machine. No, Jalen said. We broke the story. They tried to write a tragedy,
Kill Bill.
and we turned it into a revolution.
I started playing this game, like,
He
this
looked at
past
her,
weekend.
his heart
Was it
aching with a
Necessity?
sudden,
Yeah, I think
sharp
Necessity.
clarity.
And I already bought this
He
skin.
realized that the
I
contract
don't
was
know
gone.
why.
The laws that bound them were dissolved. They were free, and that terrified him
No,
more
I
than
see
the
how you're
executioner.
moving now.
What happens now?
I'm kidding,
Jalen
I
asked.
swear.
The council is gone. The marriage is annulled by default.
Okay.
You are free, Lyra. You can go anywhere. Lyra looked down
Let's
at their
try some
joined
solo
hands.
practice.
The galaxy is unstable, she said. The Heliox Combine is still out there.
Is May on?
There will be power vacuums. Warlords trying to take what the council left behind. It is going to be a mess. She looked up at him.
Bye.
I
Thank you
cannot
for
stay here,
stopping
Jalen.
by.
I am
Also,
a
was
symbol
just
now.
joking about
If I
deadbeats,
stay,
by
half the
way.
galaxy will want to crown me and the other half will want to kill
Can't
me.
believe they added-
I have to
know.
vanish. I have to go back to the shadow markets until the heat dies down. Jalen felt a cold weight in his stomach. He knew she
I'm
was
gonna make
right.
some hot chocolate
And I
cook
have to
some
go back to
cookies in a little
Earth,
bit, I think.
he said. I have to explain to my government why I started a galactic incident. I have to help rebuild the trade routes.
Give me a bit. Okay.
They sat in silence for a moment,
You're addicted.
the
just
weight
say
of their
it.
separate duties pressing down on them. I don't want to be a symbol, Lyra whispered. I just want to be the woman who sat in a stairwell with you. Jalen slid closer. He ignored the pain in his shoulder. He ignored the politics waiting outside the door. He wrapped his good arm around her waist and pulled her in.
I was debating
You are
on
not a
setting this
symbol
up
to me, he
with my
said fiercely.
IRL, but,
You never were.
I mean,
Lyra
honestly,
buried her
the
face in his
cookies,
chest.
it's like the,
She held on to
those
him
Frito
tight,
cookies with the little,
like he was the only gravity in a spinning
There's not much
universe.
to cook with those. You just put them in the
I
oven,
want you,
so
Jalen,
I don't wanna, like,
she mumbled into his tunic. Not as a spouse on paper, not as a
do an IRL in the
shield.
kitchen, just putting them
I
in
want the
oven.
man who saw my personhood when I was in a cage.
Ah.
I want the man who refused to kiss me because he respected me too much to use
Do
me.
you play Fortnite?
Jalen rested his chin on the top of her head. I used to think love was a negotiation, he admitted, a compromise. You give a little. You get a little. He pulled back so he could see her eyes. But it isn't. Love is a choice you make over and 100 times a day, especially when the world is
Wait, where
burning.
was I going? Oh,
He leaned in. And I choose you, Lyra,
sorry, I got
today,
I never played
tomorrow.
it, dude.
even if you are
I
across the
just
galaxy.
downloaded it. Play it with us.
Lyra closed her
Download
eyes.
it, nerd.
Then choose to kiss me now, she whispered, before we have to be heroes again. This time,
It's
Jalen did not
right?
hesitate.
Why can't I get in here?
He kissed her. It was a kiss of salt and blood and exhaustion,
Myself.
but it was also a kiss of absolute, terrifying hope. It was the seal on a promise that no council could write and no weapon could break. The hangar bay was chaotic. Dropships were landing, offloading medical supplies. Security teams were running drills. In the shadow of a fuel pylon, the sleek black shape of the Star Skipper waited. Lyra stood at the bottom of the ramp. She had found a new cloak, heavy and dark, that hid her face. Jalen stood opposite her. He had been given a fresh uniform, the crisp blue of the Earth Coalition. He looked like a diplomat again, but his eyes were different. They were harder, older.
My aim is so bad. It's okay.
You have the data
one day, I
core?
promise.
Jalen asked.
Oh my god. How did I
Lyra
win
tapped the
that?
pocket of her cloak. A copy. You have the original to present to your Senate.
That's
Use
so
it well,
bad.
husband. Make sure they
Put my
don't just
insider
replace
on
the council with a committee of thieves. I will, Jalen promised. The ship's AI chimed over the external speakers. Departure in T-2 minutes. The honeymoon package has been canceled,
Like this?
but I have downloaded a very sad playlist for the solo journey. Lyra rolled her eyes. I am going to wipe that hard drive, she threatened fondly. She looked back at Jalen. The engines began to whine, a high-pitched keen that signaled goodbye. The Heliox Combine will come for me, Lyra said. They know I unlocked the records. Let them come, Jalen said. We beat the council. We can beat a few gun runners. He reached out and took her hand one last time. Find me, he said. When the fires settle, Lyra squeezed his hand. I am a navigator. Jalen, I can find a needle in a nebula.
My god.
I will find you.
I'll get better.
She let go. She walked up the ramp, her silhouette sharp against the bright lights of the hangar. She stopped at the top and looked back. She raised a hand, not a wave, but a salute. Run for truth. Jalen Cade.
This.
She hit the button. The ramp hissed shut.
Okay.
Jalen watched as the Star Skipper lifted off the deck.
Okay. To be fair, guys,
It hovered
I have
for a
not played
moment,
any shooting
a black
games
scar
since
against
I
the
started
station
playing
lights.
Tekken. Other
And
than
then the
when I,
thrusters
I
fired.
was typing Tekken.
It shot out of the atmospheric shield, turning into a streak of light
Other
that
than when I
vanished
played a
into the
little bit of
stars.
Apex with me.
Jalen stood there for a long time. A young aide ran up to him, breathless. Envoy
I
Cade,
have not watched
the Senate
any
is on the line.
movies
They are demanding a statement.
at all.
They want to know who is in charge of the Federation. They want to know what happened to the prisoner. Jalen looked at the empty space where the ship had been. He touched the bandage on his shoulder.
So this is a revive,
He touched the spot on
self-revive,
his
so
chest
I'm
where
gonna
Lyra
get
had
this,
rested her head. He turned to the aide. Tell them the prisoner is gone, Jalen said. Tell them the Queen resigned.
What is this?
He straightened his jacket. He looked out at the galaxy, which was messy, dangerous,
Same gun?
and completely, beautifully free. And tell them, Jalen said, starting the long walk back to the work that waited for him, that freedom is not a
I
gift.
don't know where to go.
It is a bill, and it is time to pay up. He walked into the light of the corridor, leaving the shadow of the palace behind him, ready to build a world worthy of the woman who had spared it.
Grab